'cause your opinion don't matter. This a maniac is gonna step on whomever. It's time getting light, 'cause I'm gonna make it change. Kicking ass, taking names, cleaning house all the babies. I'm burning out the dead wood, burning down time. 'Cause it's only my way, so get your ass in They say that I've lost it, but talk me down, and I swear it's gonna cost you. Now I'm back, the boss of you morons, so never count me out as one thing you can count on. Yeah. It's time getting light, 'cause I'm gonna make it change. Kicking ass, taking names, cleaning house all the babies. I'm burning out the dead wood, burning down time. 'Cause it's only my way, so get your ass in
Number one in the chat, it's your boy, Woke Patriot. That's right, he's back, boys. I'm back. That was horrible. I'm back. Back on Twitch. Thank you, Jeff. Sorry. Boy, they made me do every minute of my sentence, every second of that 30 days I had to experience. So thank you, Eric Bischoff, for your theme that'll probably get me in copyright trouble, but it's literally the most perfect song. I have to play it. It's kind of a tradition now. But folks, this is the motherfucking News Underground. If you've missed me, if Twitch is your exclusive platform and you're like, where the fuck's this guy been? Some bad actor Russians were pissed off that their country sucks at fighting a war, and they weaponized the reporting system against me yet again. It was probably Israelis last time. Oh no, it was the swastika, but it might have been Israeli. Anyway, he's back, boys. He's back. Having some problems on YouTube with the chat. Looks like the stream is going, but we're having some problems. Restream is having some problems with the chat. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. D-Live folks. Kick folks. 3 viewers on Twitch. That's just me. That's just me and Woke Patriot. All right, I'm going to change the name now.
basement.
That song is disgusting. Oh, well, hope you're doing well, Woke Patriot. And thank you, Woke Patriot, for stopping by, if ever so briefly, on my Kick channel. I do appreciate it. Thank you for showing support. Let's open up this Iran news. We're just going to be talking about Iran today. Ceasefire. I mean, are you sure? Are you sure about this? Are you sure that's what's happening? Yeah, I got a lot to say, but let's go ahead and just open up the stream with history. First ever F-bomb just openly dropped by a U.S. president. It was only a matter of time. I mean, this man is a crass, vain, globule of liquid shit. So it was really only a matter of time before he brought the office down to this level as well, and has to use his little potty mouth. You know, he's already said bitch, and it's like, it's one thing for me, right? What am I, a hypocrite? You know, I swear all the time. I'm not the president of the motherfucking United States. You know what I mean? It used to mean something. It used to mean something, you know? You know, the class that Kennedy, added to the office was it was worn down to a nub, but there was still a little bit of class left. And it's just right in the toilet. It's right in the toilet with this. And is anyone surprised? I'm certainly not. I wish things were more sane, because this will get 12 hours. This will get 6 hours on the news cycle, and we're moving on to something else. But this is actually a pretty big deal. Him dropping an F-bomb. Well, like, I really mean it. The other thing I wanted to talk about as well is Kyle, Crystal, and Jank are all wrong about what the fuck is going on here. They seem to be convinced that Donald Trump is interested in full-blown regime change, that he's going to do exactly what Israel is saying. They seem to be missing the Nobel Peace Prize motivation, but that is just today, that has just been taken off the table. So we might see things change even further, maybe even leaning more towards regime change. This whole thing, though, that, Trump is 100% beholden to Israel. I mean, of course, he's beholden to Israel. He's done a lot for Israel. He's one of the most pro-Israel presidents ever. Suck that, Joe Biden, right? And no matter how hard he tries, Trump is still considered better in terms of support for Israel. But he doesn't want to have an Iraq, Afghanistan. He doesn't want a quagmire. He doesn't want to get caught up in Israel's war, and he knows when another con man is conning him. He knows when that BB is a con man. Because he knows he's a fellow con man. He knows he's a fellow crook, right? There's that thieves appreciation or whatever, right? So that he understands that BB is trying to get what he wants at Trump's expense. I don't think Trump is that stupid when it comes to that stuff. Like, he knows how to deal with other crooks. Maybe. Sometimes he seems to have pretty good awareness. At other times, totally clueless, like in the case with Putin. He truly is a mystery. Trying to nail this man down, you have to attend college courses. We're in the future, we're going to have whole courses on studying this man, and in terms of what his actual motivations were. Because it's, you can lean on this. The reason why I'm leaning on the Peace Prize thing is because I'm leaning on his ego. He wants it. Obama got it. He wants it. He wants to make it legit. He wants all the titles, right? When asked about the Pope, who should be the new Pope, he said, me. Made himself the president of the Kennedy Center. He doesn't know anything about the arts, right? It should be me. I want to be president of the Kennedy Center. You're already president of the United States. Not good enough. He wants all the titles. He wants all the accolades, all the trophies. He didn't earn them. He cares. Like, he cares. He just wants them. He just wants them. So I think the pundits are missing that. But anyway, historic F-bomb dropped. Yet another turd in the bowl of this. We're not even a year in, man. I mean, this is 3.5 more years of this, guys. 3.5 more years. Pop the Chambly. And then, you know what's great? It's like, oh, wouldn't it be just great if he, if the McDonald's catches up to him, right? What? So we get JD Vance, the fucking the harbinger of democracy's doom, the smart fascist, who will listen to the oligarchy, no matter what, doesn't even have his own, path, regardless of how insane Trump's path is. It is his own. He's not listening 100% to Peter Thiel. So now we got JD Vance. So it's a fucking nightmare.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Cool. So there you go. There's the quote. Let's give you the full context.
President, the Middle East just woke up to a new dawn because of Mr. President, Israel said ceasefire breaking.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. Ridiculous.
He's such a naive, stupid bastard when it comes to geopolitics. He treats other countries like he treats his employees, or a subordinate. He really doesn't have any kind of. His frustration stems from the fact that they're not doing what he's saying. But he also knows he's not going to do anything. He's like a parent that screams and screams and screams and screams, but at the end of the day, no matter how bad you are, they cut the check, they give you the money, they enable your bad behavior. And that's what we're going to see with Israel. He's not going to do anything substantive against Israel. But he's mad at Bibi because he thinks, Bibi, you're the reason why I'm not getting my Peace Prize. When in reality, the reason why he's not going to get his Peace Prize, look at this. Donald Trump Nobel Peace Prize nomination withdrawn. And why? Why? So check it out. It was a senior Ukrainian lawmaker who initially nominated President Trump. They nominated him right away because they wanted to do everything possible to get Donald Trump on their side. And they're like, this is a big win, dude. You could slam dunk this. Had Donald Trump defeated Putin and maybe ended Iran's nukes, right? Or nuclear program, sorry, not their nukes. He might be getting that Peace Prize. But because he was such a weak bitch to Vladimir Putin, who does not reciprocate, who is not going to take care of Donald Trump, right? He's not going to have his back. And he does it anyway because he's a fool. He's a damn fool. And now he doesn't get his title. He's probably screaming on the phone right now. Someone else nominate me. Who else is there? Nominate. Someone else, get somebody on the phone to nominate me. I'm doing it. The mean smirk. Ugh. Why don't you just say "milady"? Why don't you just bust out the "milady"? Maybe one of these here. Maybe one of these. How do you spell that? Is it like that? Is that how you spell fedora? Guy with a mean smirk. Like Sonic the Hedgehog, maybe? I'm just very skeptical of usernames that's like basically, I'm a cocky bastard that knows everything. Like, if that's what you're trying to, it's like, man, what a way to open up a conversation. You know what I mean? Hi, I'm a cocky bastard who knows everything. I've been told I have a nasty smirk. Welcome back, Bound TRS. Good to see you. Thank you for coming back. All right. Well, I'm done giving you shit, Mr. Smirk. You haven't proven to me that you're an idiot yet, so I should leave you alone. Thank you for coming in. Been a while. Yeah, well, I was banned for 30 days, and boy, did they make me. They made me pay every minute, every minute of that 30 days. But anyway, back to Donald Trump. He's a jackass because he's a weak bitch to Putin. He's lost his chance to actually get a peace prize. And you know, it's crazy. I was banned because Russians who were very mad at seeing their army getting their ass kicked weaponized the reporting system, and I was probably showing something a little too spicy, at least according to the appeals person. Apparently, they say it's a human. Yeah, right. But according to them, I did break TOS by showing a blurred out picture of a dead Russian body. Thoughts on the ceasefire, Baron? Baron? Little old putty called the Don to help right after the Iranian diplomat left. I think I understand that reference. So Mr. Smirk there, thoughts on the ceasefire? I think it's Trump is ludicrous for thinking that he can just... It is interesting, though, because he just goes, okay, there's a ceasefire now. Oh, Putin. Oh, of course. Little old Pooty. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm reading Putty. I'm thinking of Power Rangers because I'm a child. It's wild. The two pictures of Trump, one is super orange, the other is fairly normal. Well, this is the morning after. He didn't have time to put his makeup on. But no, back to what Smirk is saying. Thoughts on the ceasefire. It's ludicrous, right? He bombs Iran, says, and then goes, okay, everyone get along now. You know, big smack. Fucking what was it? 30,000 pound or three? How many? Incredible bunker busters. Okay, slaps Iran across the face and is like, okay, stop fighting. Ironically, though, it could have worked, and it might even still maybe work. Okay, because no one likes Iran's nuclear ambitions. Everyone knows that they're not trying for a bomb, but it doesn't matter. Well, we don't know that it worked. They moved the refined uranium. They've moved it. It's slowed them down. And quite frankly, the most important part of this is that no radiation leaked, which further bolsters this idea that the uranium's been moved. So no radiation's been leaked, and the West really didn't like Iran doing anything nuclear, even if everyone acknowledged that it was just power. Yeah, actually, there's a lot of credible sources saying that they moved it. Like the New York Times is reporting on that shit. So don't try to spread misinformation, or I'll get the flunger out. Okay, if I find a source, I'm going to ban you. Okay. Type uranium moved. Officials concede they don't know the fate of the uranium stockpile. It's one piece of evidence. Where is Iran's enriched uranium? And I'm sure this article is going to go into all of the satellite data that shows them loading up a bunch of trucks weeks before this all happened. Goofy fat fuck. Well, there you go. There we go. That's all we needed. That's all we needed. Literally proving you wrong. But bye-bye. It's funny. It's funny that people think they deserve to have a conversation when they talk to people like that. You know what I mean? Here I am doing exactly what he asked, and he's peppering me with insults. No, you can get flushed like the turd that you are. I don't debate garbage. I throw it out to the fucking curb. So the next question is, what's Iran going to do? Are they going to, the Strait of Hormuz, are they going to mine it? Are they really going to do that? We don't know yet. We really don't know. Things are kind of quiet right now. Outside of Trump here dropping F-bombs. Oh, God. I watched one Sopranos video, and now my whole fucking thing is going to be nothing. Okay, let me get rid of this. Hold on. I watched one Sopranos fucking video. let me get these off my... I'm going to get a bunch of WWF stuff. You watch one Sopranos video, and then all of a sudden, every fucking video you get is Sopranos. Trump just arrived at the Netherlands for the NATO summit meeting. Department of Defense meeting is on C-SPAN. We can check out C-SPAN. Was it? Yeah, here we go. What is it called? Free Inter TV. We can steal some CNN. C-SPAN, I mean. I don't have cable. No, can't get C-SPAN. Well, let's see what's going on with CNN. No, nothing. Okay. This website used to work. Does C-SPAN stream on YouTube? I don't think they do they? 1.6 million subscribers over here at C-SPAN. And they just post clips. That's cute. Tel Aviv skyline. Should we just do what Agenda Free does? Should I just stare at this? Look, guys, I'm agenda free. And just like off screen, I'll tell you about news that's happening. Oh, guys, some news is happening. There's some breaking news happening. There's some breaking news happening on someone else's website. I can't show it to you, though. I can't show you anything. I can only show things that I'm paying for. You know, God help us all. God help us all. Thank you for the link, Mr. Cubs fan. God help us all if news is really supposed to be working like that. You know what I mean? Where everything is super duper locked down. We got to pay for it. It's like music. We're going to treat news like the fucking music industry, right? He just got my IP. It's fine. What are you going to do with it? Go for it. You want my IP? Go nuts. That'd be hilarious getting DDoSed. For what? My political views? You're only reinforcing that I'm saying things that are mixing things up, right? State Department spokesman, okay. Reporters' response to questions. This is going to be useless. Let's watch a couple minutes of it, but it's going to be... I'll be surprised if there's anything newsworthy in here. C-SPAN, C-SPAN, C-SPAN. Thank you for the link once again, Cubs fan. I don't usually watch C-SPAN. I probably should because I'm a politics guy, but my family would probably murder me if I kept C-SPAN on in the back like I would do if I was a single man.
Everybody, thank you for coming. Appreciate you being
They're
here.
all, I mean, they lie habitually, you know.
When they try to come in here late. All right, you guys. Of course, a few comments here as we begin on this
Volume's going
Tuesday.
to go up just a bit here.
The past few days have proven that President Trump means what he says. America can be proud that we have a president who puts America first and is a peacemaker. As he said on his...
Peacemakers often bomb nuclear sites, by the way. That's what the peacemakers are well known for, dropping some of the largest bombs man's ever created on nuclear testing sites. That's what peacemen, men who enjoy peace bros, as I call them.
Truth Social, both Israel and Iran wanted to stop the war
Tips
equally.
Fedora. All right, bye, Smirk. See you later. Sorry, I don't entertain you.
It was my
Whatever.
great honor to destroy all nuclear
Bye.
facilities and capability, and then stop the war. Now,
Right.
an update
He should have
on
told
the state.
somebody that. He should have maybe told somebody that was the plan. Did anyone know that was the plan? You know what I mean? Maybe should have sent out an email. Get one of his fucking 50 assistants on their way back from a Diet Coke run. Yeah, shoot out an email for me, darling.
Citizens throughout the Middle East. The department has provided information and support to over 27,000 people seeking guidance regarding the conflict between Israel and Iran.
I'm a
The
child.
vast majority of people we are in touch with are seeking information, which we provide regularly. The State Department began assisted departure flights from Israel on June 21st. Flights have departed Israel with hundreds of U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents, and they're in the region and around the world for welcoming American citizens. We also extend our deep Udeid Air Base, as well as a deep appreciation for the American for U.S. and regional security. Yesterday, Iran launched several missiles against AUAB. Many of those missiles were successfully intercepted due to the combined efforts of the U.S. and Qatari armed forces.
Yeah, and Iran knew that when they fired at that location. This is the same exact thing that they did after the initial assassination that Israel, perpetrated on them. What is making noise?
Thankfully, no Americans or Qataris were hurt.
Oh, this is.
In further announcements today, Secretary Rubio has landed along with the president at the NATO summit at The Hague. As the secretary has noted, under President Trump's decisive leadership, we're driving historic change at NATO. Also this week.
Yeah, that's actually a factual statement. Yeah, historic change at NATO. Yeah, you bet. You could call the attempted destruction of NATO change. No doubt about it. Things are changing.
The United States will participate in the 55th Organization of American States General Assembly in Antigua and Barbuda, where we will...
All right, I can't take this shit. I'm sorry. I just can't. Someone tell me if she said something fucking important if you want. Whatever. We're great. We're doing great. We're amazing. Everything we do is amazing. You got the AP over here. No, we're good, dog. I'd rather watch Press TV. What's the state of Iran's nuclear program? Well, here we go. We were literally just talking about this. Let's see what MSDNC has to say about it. MSDNC.
Former CIA officer and an MSNBC.
Great, right? So let's go ahead and ask the fucking CIA, ex-CIA, and some other what? Where are you
National
from?
Security and intelligence analyst.
And then the New York Times, who happily goes along with whatever the CIA has to say. I honestly am not going to do that. I'm not going to listen to some fucking spook. I got to stop using that term, but it's the best term to describe these ex-intelligence guys. They're spooky. And no, it has nothing to do with race. Can the Iran-Israel deal? All right, let's watch something from DW. At least this is not going to be, hey, what does the deep state think? What did the CIA have to say about this situation? Ex-CIA or current CIA. MSNBC interviews them like they're not compromised, like they're unbiased.
So Trump, of course, has proclaimed that the war ends as well with the ceasefire, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as that. We need to see what happens to the nuclear negotiations that have been ongoing between the US and Iran, but have been stuck very much on a very critical sticking point as to whether Iran is to be allowed to enrich any uranium or not.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has confirmed a ceasefire with Iran after a series of attacks on each other's territory that left hundreds dead and even got the U.S. involved. A tentative calm has returned to the region for now. That's good news for energy markets, which not only rely on several countries in the Persian Gulf for fossil fuels, but also for the waterways to ship it. For more, we speak to Vandana Hari, founder of the energy intelligence firm Avanda Insights. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's been a tumultuous last few days, but we seem to be at a ceasefire now. Has it also been a roller coaster on the energy markets?
Good morning, Cassandra. So indeed, quite a roller coaster. We saw a lot of volatility in crude on occasions, especially the first few days after the...
Gas over here went up literally by $1. Just overnight, blop, just like that, extra dollar more, or was it not an extra dollar more? It was an extra 10 cents more. But usually it's like increments, right? Like 5 cents, it goes up and down. No, it just like boom.
The Israeli strikes on Iran began. We saw crude within a single session oscillating up to $8, between $70, $78 for Brent. So a lot of volatility, as you were alluding to earlier, a lot of speculation over some of the worst case scenarios, especially a lot of attention centered around what might Iran do with regard to the Strait of Hormuz. We know that Iran, through history, has periodically threatened to close that very vital artery for oil. Thankfully, that didn't happen. But again, I think it's a sort of uneasy calm in the markets, I would say. Even if there is indeed a proper firm ceasefire, we know, again, ceasefires do get occasionally violated, unfortunately. So I think there'll be a bit of a wait and watch.
The Iranian government is kind of a failure. I got to say this. Like I honestly feel like the supreme leader is out of touch. And I don't think he truly understands the situation that he's in. I say that though, but you know, they basically agreed to Donald Trump's ceasefire, right? Even though they put out a statement like, we have no idea what he's talking about. A couple minutes later, almost literally, they were like, okay, yeah, we agree. Now that we've had a phone call with Donald, you know, now that we've had a phone call with somebody from the government, okay, yeah, all right, we agree. Which is the right move, 100% the right move. But I don't know, man, because it's like, do you mine it? Do you go after the Strait? I mean, you have to respond. The piddly little rocket barrage that you knew was going to get shot down. I mean, I guess you could just make a mountain out of a molehill propaganda-wise locally. Yeah. I guess maybe you don't close the Strait right now. And I guess you allow Trump to kind of string you along on this peace because you know Donald Trump wants a peace prize. Peace prize just been taken off the table, though. Donald Trump is going to direct his anger towards Israel for that. Even though it's not really their fault per se on this one. Donald Trump lost the peace prize because of his failure to protect Ukraine. That's why the person from Ukraine withdrew his nomination.
In the market before crude surrenders the remaining fear premium.
You mentioned the Strait of Hormuz, a historically important passageway for fossil fuels, but I'm wondering, is it still as significant a choke point as it has been, or has there been, for example, an increase in pipelines that might have made it less significant as a pathway?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? The world has known about its vulnerability with regard to that strait for many, many years, a few decades now at least. But it's you know, this is the story with major oil and gas infrastructure. It's really very hard to find workarounds. If it's about ships sailing routes, you know, like what we saw in the Red Sea, for instance, the Houthis began attacking ships there and ships started going via the Cape of Good Hope. That's easier. But some of these choke points, and that's why they are called that, for a very good reason, and very critical waterway, that's another phrase used for the Strait of Hormuz, is because there are very few realistic alternatives that could be put in place within a specified.
Look at the map. I mean, it's the perfect. I wouldn't be surprised if battles, ancient battles were fought on this strait because of its strategic importance. There's no alternative outside of some kind of insane land bridge. Some $500 billion underground tunnel or something, right? Like, there's really no alternative, and the market will absolutely react if they were to do it. The market would react so viscerally that we might see the United States Navy attack the Iranian Navy. If they see the Iranian Navy out there mining the strait, they might just straight up blow up those boats because it's better to deal with the fallout with that than to deal with the oil prices going up, because we're talking about adding several dollars probably to the price of gas for your average consumer. And they're used to things going up 25 cents, 10 cents, 50 cents, when it gets crazy. And then, over time, it hits that $1, $2, right? Because we saw that, but something like this would hit the market instantly, and that price would go up overnight.
Period
It'd
of
be
time.
quite a shock.
So, no, there aren't really any alternatives. The vast majority of the production from those countries are Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Iraq, Kuwait, Oman, some from Qatar
No, and
as well.
that's a good calculation as well. Iran is allied with a lot of these Arab countries, and they're like, don't fucking mine the strait, don't do it. We don't care that your country's being attacked by the United States. We pretend like we have your back, but we absolutely don't. That's infamous with these Arab countries, right? They're not unified at all. They're unified loosely around some economics, but when it comes to actually having each other's back, I mean, they're nowhere to be fucking seen, dude. Little things. I mean, I was actually surprised at all that Hezbollah participated in October 7th. It was funny though, because it was like, no, we're getting out of here. No. We're getting out of here.
All the LNG from Qatar has to go via that strait.
In your viewpoint, was Iran ever going to cut off the Strait of Hormuz? It seems like it would have been a self-imposed wound as well.
Absolutely. It would have been
Meat
shooting
shield
itself in the
man.
foot,
Interesting.
which
US
was
Insights.
one of the reasons that we at Van Dyne Insights assigned it a very, very small tail risk.
We won't. Donald Trump. I mean, yeah, sure. That hypothetical could play out if Iran were to kill U.S. sailors. Yeah, sure. But quite frankly, Donald Trump doesn't need that as justification to proceed. The man just bunker busted their entire nuclear program into oblivion. It looks like they were able to save the uranium, but that, uranium doesn't mean jack shit. You could put it in a dirty bomb. You could do something, I guess, but you're miles away from a nuclear bomb if you just got a bunch of uranium. This isn't Back to the Future, nobody's Doc Brown over here. So he doesn't really need U.S. sailors to die. And once again, I'm seeing so much. People are convinced that Donald Trump wants to put boots on the ground in Iran. Welcome back, Ribbons. People are utterly convinced that Donald Trump, that's what he wants. Why? Because Sheldon Adelson, because that's what the Israelis want. And it's like, I mean, he has the Israelis back. Obviously, he's like, ethnically cleanse Gaza. Let me build a hotel there. He's got Israel's back. But is even he stupid enough to think he's going to be able to invade Iran with the U.S. military, a country of 91 plus million people, and not get stuck in a quagmire? I don't think so. Because the reason why I don't think so, is because he's always been rhetorically opposed to the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's consistently criticized Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Even he was criticizing Biden even though he was getting out of Afghanistan. Remember, Biden couldn't get out of it was a disaster. It was a travesty. He got out of there, and it was a disgusting strategic failure by Biden, who got out of there like a cheating husband. In the dead of the night, instead of an ordered extraction and retreat, he just got out of there and he abandoned countless Afghanis that could have that were enjoying going to college and were working with the United States as translators, etc. He just abandons them to the fucking Taliban. But it was ultimately the right move to get out of Afghanistan, right? Almost 20 years of quagmire, still in Iraq, and obviously we know why we're in Iraq. Now that we see with what's happening with Iran, and anyone can see quite plainly. I mean, Meat Shield, he wants that if he can do what he did, right? Push the button, wipe out the nuclear program, and then ceasefire and peace, and everyone's happy. If he can do like a Gulf War thing, right? Push a button, couple weeks, in and out, good to go. And I think even the people in his orbit are not guaranteeing that to Donald Trump when it comes to Iran. I don't, because Rumsfeld and Cheney and all the rest of the neocons that surrounded George Bush, they were telling him in and out. In and out. We're so tough. We're so strong. In and out. We'll get out of there. I think there's some real disagreement I think there's some people that are next to Trump that are like, oh yeah, this will be so easy. We're so powerful. But I think there's also some disagreement there. And the people that are surrounding Trump are like, no, this could very easily turn into an Iraq situation. You're going to put boots on the ground. It's going to cost trillions. It's going to be, it's going to be a PR nightmare. It's not going to be just hit a button, blow something up, and then everything's better, right? He was willing to do that with the Houthis, right? Push a button, blow up some bases. We won, right? He loves that. I think he's very skittish and scared of a quagmire. And yes, he's a complete fucking naive idiot when it comes to geopolitics. But I think it has sunk in his head that the Middle East war was a failure for George Bush. It was a failure for Barack Obama and Biden. And, he's effectively used it politically against them for so long. So I think even he understands that getting, stuck in a big Middle Eastern quagmire is not going to make him look like a big tough guy. Because Meat Shield is correct that Donald Trump likes to be perceived as a big tough guy, right? He's a classic narcissist, right? Welcome back, strategy. So I'm not convinced that he wants a full-blown invasion, that he wants to do what Bibi wants to do, right? And he wants regime change. I'm not totally convinced of that at the moment.
In sort of all probability.
And I'm not convinced of that either, strategy member, that the entire, these people are not Legion. They did not sign up for a war with Iran. Okay. Yeah. You could convince them that, they had to drop a bomb, right? Charlie Kirk has been grooming his audience, being like, oh, well, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, But even Charlie Kirk understands that he's not going to be able to defend a multi-month protracted conflict where U.S. soldiers are being blown up by IEDs and shit like that. Easy like Grenada. They weren't so in love with Special Forces, they usually let them drown, forcing Delta Force to do a water assault in the storm. I need to know more about Grenada. I don't know the full history of that conflict. There's some who follow him around like ducks. Yes, Kyle Kulinski was saying he's thinking 25% of MAGA is like, even if you were to nuke Greenland, they'd still be down. And I think I can agree with that assessment. Really, when you look at the partisans that support the neoliberals, that's kind of the same amount of number, right? These people that vote corporate Dem, no matter who, like Hakeem Jeffries, he's the man for me. It's probably around 25% of like stone cold, too far gone, as Kyle Kulinski says, partisans. Post-truth, that is a very interesting term. But, it's probably pretty similar in terms of the amount of partisans on either side that are ride or die no matter what happens. I'm riding with Biden, even though he's riding his way into the fucking old folks' home. No offense, of course, to our wise audience members.
Negligible probability of that happening because, there was very real tactical hurdles. So we know that U.S. has beefed up its naval presence.
And look, if the economy was okay, the sycophants that you're talking about would go along with the Iranian war, whatever, right? My gas is low, and my groceries are cheap. Donald Trump kept his promises. He's kicking all the illegals out, and the economy's getting better, right? If that was the case, then yeah, sure, they'd be really. We'd see a lot of Republicans on board for maybe not on board, but not exactly like why are you wasting our time and you're breaking your promises, sir? But because everything is so terrible because of his tariffs, because of every decision that he makes, basically. I mean, this guy's not even a broken clock. Because of that, it makes it really easy to say, well, we don't need this fucking Middle East war. What the fuck? You haven't fixed my gas prices. You haven't fixed the groceries. My job still sucks. There's still scary brown people that might be gay. They're still hanging around. What the hell's going on? You haven't fixed anything. Now you're going to start a war in the Middle East? Even dumb MAGA fucks are going to be bitching about that. They're not going to shut up about that.
presence. Of course, it has a lot of ground presence, Air Force presence in the region as well. So that acted as a deterrent. It would have also served as a quick response force to stop Iran, because that's a very physical activity, right? It's easy to see where Iranian forces are coming from that try to blockade it. I think there was also very strategic hurdles in terms of, Iran would not risk turning its neighboring oil and gas producing countries and exporting countries into enemies. Essentially, that's what it would be doing by trying to block the strait, because it would block their flows of their oil to the world markets as well. And of course, anchoring its key market and supporter, China, right? So it's not just Iranian oil that China gets through that strait, but all the Middle Eastern oil as well. And we know that Asia is the main consumer of all of the oil that comes.
They don't rake the forests. In California, Gavin Newsom, he's not raking the forest. That's why they have all the forest fires. They don't rake the forest, folks. They don't clean it. Dirty forests.
Through the Persian Gulf. So for a variety of reasons, Iran would have had almost nothing to gain and a lot to lose by even trying to blockade it.
You mentioned China, of course, a major buyer of Iranian oil, approximately 1.8 million barrels per day. At least that's some of the more recent figures. China and Russia had also called for a ceasefire, but what role did China play in this?
Yes, so slightly different roles, though they are both assumed to be on Iran's side and to have Iran's ears, basically. But I think with regard to Russia, it was more a speculation in the markets that would Putin come to the aid of Iran should the fighting continue, with more firepower and so on. And it became pretty clear sort of midway through that 12-day conflict that was not going to be the case. I think that was probably a bit of a relief for markets, because the last thing we needed was for this war or the conflict which started.
I can name one strategy. Anybody that speaks on Israel's behalf in the media, they're technically doing more lying than Donald Trump. But that's only because Donald Trump sometimes accidentally tells the truth.
Started out as Israel versus Iran to sort of broaden and pull in Russia, which is already tied up quite a bit in Ukraine as well. With regard to Iran, with regard
Russia
to China,
as well. Representatives from Russia.
It plays its cards very differently from Russia.
Not a
and
single
I would imagine that there
truth.
was much more going on behind the scenes, not in terms of military support. I don't think that's where China would come in, but in terms of persuading or prevailing on the powers that be in Tehran to not take a reckless step of trying to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. So
waiting to pick
we
up
may
the
never know
pieces.
whether how that conversation
Put it
went,
back,
but I would imagine that China, especially having been requested by the US, we know that happened, to lean on Tehran not to do that, would have very well, I imagine, conveyed that message on its own behalf, basically.
Stepping back, Iran is an original member of OPEC. Do we expect any changes to production from this group of oil-producing countries?
Okay. I'm gonna fucking fall asleep. Sorry here. My attention span is completely obliterated right now. Nope, we're not gonna watch an interview with fucking Petraeus. No. Sorry, Wolf Blitzer. Yeah, let's listen to some LBC here.
One of the eternal truths about Donald Trump seems to be his belief that he can speak things into reality.
Yeah, and we're seeing that with the ceasefire. It was really hilarious. What's interesting, though, about Donald Trump, because he's the president of the United States, is that it kind of worked. He didn't tell either country, okay, you're doing a ceasefire. But a couple minutes later, there was technically a ceasefire in place. Could you imagine if it was really this easy, guys? It's like making up rules, like you're playing a board game with family and you're like, okay, everyone agrees, right? Like, oh, okay, yeah.
If he said something is true, then
Now
he
without
is almost trying to
military.
will it
Meat
to
shield,
be
that's
true.
funny.
He possibly even believes himself that it is true. So abnormal is his personality. And as we've touched on many times, but I feel we've never really nailed it down. I'm not sure we ever will. I'm not sure it is nailable. But we have spoken many times about the media's inability.
No, I just said we're gonna need college courses on Trump, and it's gonna be both ways, because there's gonna be college courses on what Trump is, possibly so that we know how to defeat Trumps in the future, and there's gonna be classes by grifters and politicians and others that want to emulate Trump. To say, okay, this is the formula. This is how you get the stupids whipped up. This is how you convince them. What about Trump made him so attractive, even though he's a teetotaling, golden toilet seat sitting, fancy lad from New York City, right? Why was Bubba from the fucking sticks interested in supporting Donald Trump, even though he was all those things? They're going to be studying Trump in terms of how to recreate Trump and keep, because they're monsters. Okay, so get used to it. I guess we should. The neoliberal comfortable womb that millennials especially were raised in, we got to shed that. We got to shed this idea that things are fair, that things make sense, that there aren't forces that are trying to destroy, right? Because the neoliberal perspective is that the right, we have disagreements with the right, but they're not, they ultimately agree with the system. They ultimately want to perpetuate the system. We just have disagreements on policy. That's the neoliberal fantasy. We need to shed those things and identify the movement on the right for what it is, which is a destructive fascistic movement. You don't want to call it fascist. You want to call it something else. That's fine. But we do need to acknowledge that it's inherently destructive and does need to be defeated, not capitulated with, not worked with, not reaching across the aisle, not 50% there, 50% here. Defeated, like the Whigs, defeated. You know what I mean? The interesting thing about the Republican Party, it's already basically irrelevant. They don't represent their constituents. They represent their hatreds, their ignorances, but in terms of their actual needs, the party is totally irrelevant. If the left was able to claw back control of politics and reassert some kind of sanity, the Republican Party would either destroy itself or would just be destroyed as new democratic opportunities are opening up. We're seeing this happen right as we speak. We're seeing this happen in the UK. The Tory party, right? The motherfucking Tories, dude. The legendary party is getting flushed, absolutely flushed, and replaced with reform. That's what happens when there is still some semblance of democracy left. I don't agree with either party. I'm no fan of reform, that's for sure. I think they're a bunch of liars and grifters. But it is interesting to see what happens in a democracy when that party, aka the Tories here, fail to meet the needs of their constituents. Right? Nixon is where all this started. He didn't help, but I mean, the thing about Nixon was that Nixon was a reinforcement that the system works, right? And it didn't. I mean, he was pardoned. Obviously, the system. There's this whole idea that presidents are able to just, that needs to be fixed, right? But he went to trial. There was, he was treated like a citizen, somewhat, certainly more than Donald Trump, but he was treated like a citizen. Until he was pardoned by Ford. Which, I mean, honestly, people should be looking back on that decision. Just as I look back, I hope people agree with me here that Barack Obama's decision to let George Bush off easy was a massive mistake, right? Legalizing all the executive power grabs that George Bush, initiated because it was an emergency, legalizing those, making them permanent, making the executive even more powerful instead of reverting back. I hope you put that in the same category as Gerald Ford there pardoning Richard Nixon for his crimes. Hopefully by now we've seen how damaging it is for an executive to have extrajudicial power, to have the ability to subvert the courts in any way, as we've seen. Anyway, even because just for emergencies, just in case. No, they just create an emergency and then they do it anyway, as predicted, exactly as predicted by people who know better. We're like, well, okay, you're just opening up an avenue for that to be abused. Oh, no, it won't. No, you're so cynical. You're so cynical. The institution's bigger and more powerful than that. It's more important than that. People wouldn't do that. No, of course they would. Of course they would. There's always a Bibi Netanyahu. There's always a Trump. There's always a Assad, right? There's always a dictator or a tyrant that doesn't care about, is not shameless, right? Doesn't care about the country, doesn't care about the legacy, the vaunted national identity. Doesn't care about any of that. What do they care about? Themselves, their own power, their family, their riches. Oh, I can do that? Okay, we're doing that. Oh, sir, aren't you worried about the optics? And aren't you worried about, people perceiving you as being shameful? No. Can I do that? Can I do that right now? Okay, do that. Do that right now. Push the button. Push the button 100 times. That's the lesson we need to learn here, is that our democracies need to be strong enough to handle bad actors like Donald Trump and Bibi and all these other dictators. Okay? Because they're always going to exist. The checks and balance. The check and balance is the most important thing here that we need to bring back, right?
Myself included, to properly chronicle something as bonkers as this. What choice do you have if the President of the United States of America announces that he has successfully negotiated a ceasefire? What choice do you have? As a newscaster, as a news
report
editor,
on it.
As a newspaper editor, as any sort of commentator or journalist, the President of the United States of America has announced a negotiated ceasefire between two parties that were previously launching missiles at each other so frequently that it sometimes appeared as if it was going out of fashion. What choice do you have? I mean, they've got a little bit better, but the furthest they go towards, I'll believe it when I see it, is saying Donald Trump says he has negotiated a ceasefire. But he's still the President of the United States of America. So him, simply by dint of saying something, it becomes news, whether it's true or not. And you marry that. I never stop being fascinated by this, by the psychology behind it. I know it's not nearly as important as the people who have died and the people who will die and suffer and be dispossessed and lose their homes. But in terms of trying to unravel what the heck is going on, you have to start at first base, don't you? And first base is this marriage between a complete abandonment of objective reality, objective truth, and the failure or the inability of the traditional means of chronicling our shared reality to keep up with the madness. It's so simple. It's like sabotage or arson. It's not a sophisticated game of 4D chess. It's just, if I say things that aren't true loud enough and long enough, they kind of become true. Insofar as my base will believe them, they'll believe anything I say, and the media has to report it. Yeah. Even if, I mean, what did you think this morning?
But the media chooses how to report things, and people are getting sick and tired of the objective media reporting things like it just fell out of a hole in the middle of the sky. Oh, this thing's happening. Oh, this thing's happening. No connection, no context, no nothing. And it's like, it is a fine line between doing what I'm doing, which is giving you my opinion while reporting on the news, and reporting on the news and allowing people to come to their own conclusions. You do have to do more, though, than just say this is what's happening to help people come to those conclusions. And the current way that they do that, it's a cop-out, right? They never have the journalists, the so-called hosts, the journalists, the hosts, they never have them come out and say, what their opinion is, their analysis of anything. I mean, well, they do, but the standard way to do, the standard objective way to do it, okay, when they want to pretend to be objective, is you ask some lying shill on one side and usually a person who's a little bit more got their head on their shoulders, but usually kind of a shill in the other direction. So you got these two shills that are selling their own versions of reality. And what does the host, what does the journalist do? Just nods their head and listens. Make sure everyone's respectable. I'm seeing a little change to that on CNN, but still, I mean, Scott Jennings is like a fucking primetime. He gets Scott Jennings, the known liar, grifter Scott Jennings. He gets primetime, time next to anybody talking about peace, talking about ending the Palestinian conflict, anybody talking about anything. Scott Jennings is there to deliver a lie and an obfuscation. And CNN treats that like, they treat it normal. Like it's not an exercise in like calling Scott out on his bullshit. It's like, no, Scott's here to deliver bullshit. But we're without challenging Scott Jennings on CNN. If you're not challenging him, people are not, they're not like political freaks like us, right? They don't have all the context. There's all these black spots, and Scott Jennings is taking advantage of that. Welcome back to Israel.
What do you do, by the way? What's the first thing you do in terms of the news? I'm increasingly aware of people who are moving away from the news. I'm increasingly aware of people who are limiting their diet, leavening their diet of information. And I do actually understand why. I know to endorse the idea would make me a turkey voting for Christmas. But if you're still in the business of checking up on what is going on in the world, then what do you do first? So I've got on my phone, I've got the BBC, the New York Times. In fact, I'll tell you, I'll double check. I've got the LBC app, the BBC app, the Apple, what's it called? Aggregator, the one that gives you glimpses of everything. I've got the Financial Times, the New York Times, and the Times. So particularly with the Apple.
But that actually really explains a lot about James O'Brien. I mean, that really says it all right there, man. Really? You don't have one Democracy Now! In there? One, personality? Anybody? No, you got mainstream news. Apple is one of the worst news aggregators, by the way. Nothing but, corporate news is on ABC. Nothing but corporate news is on ABC. Financial Times is probably the most legitimate one to have on there. But I mean, that really does say a lot about James O'Brien, because he's such a defender of the neoliberal status quo. He really, really is.
Aggregator, you get a little bit of everything there. So I get the Guardian, the Telegraph, the Standard, Sky News.
He's got the techno virus, that cable from X-Men
at the top of my feed. So I look at that and more or less identical headlines, which is quite rare.
That's a nerd reference.
More or less identical headlines saying. Essentially, ceasefire agreed. And what's your first thought? Your first thought, I hope, is I hope so. Your first thought is we don't want carnage. Your second thought is I don't think this fits the facts as they are available. I don't think that Benjamin Netanyahu is likely to abide by the terms of any ceasefire any more than he is to abide by or was to abide by the terms of...
No, look, the Financial Times is the newspaper for the oligarchy, and it's interesting because the oligarchy doesn't want to be lied to. The oligarchy wants to lie to everybody else and create falsehoods for everybody else. But they depend on the Financial Times to be actually truthful. So if you're a news commentator, I got to get a subscription. I really do. If you're a news commentator, reading the Financial Times is actually pretty critical. Because it's like if it's being reported in the Financial Times, that means it affects rich people, and that means rich people are going to take whatever is in here seriously. Mr. Trump, please hit North Korea too. You guys are aware that this is not a success yet right? Is everyone aware of that? I know Donald Trump is like, I win, I've done it, I did it. We celebrate. We're like, fucking go, bring it on, right? Like, but we actually haven't confirmed that this is working. This is the right move yet. Needs to be scolded. You can actually scold a country without severely bombing major infrastructure in that country. There's actually other avenues. Yeah. It's against TOS to call for the death of politicians on Twitch. So, please don't.
I'm a Luigi.
Please don't. You're going to get me in trouble. I just got unbanned.
Of the last ceasefire that he breached with regard to Gaza. Iran don't look to me like an administration that's ready to roll over and look a little bit pliant in the face of American importuning. And of course, the difficulty of getting a clear line on anything.
What happened to imprisoning war criminals? Why can't lefties talk about that more? Huh? It's always the assassination guillotine shit. Huh? Why can't we just talk about arresting war criminals in The Hague? Would that be so bad for Kim Jong-un to be in The Hague? Yeah, okay. Understandable then. You, as a South Korean, I assume, you're in direct danger, right? I'm no fan of North Korea. Let me make that very, very clear. But I think it's naive and short-sighted to think assassination, bombing solves problems. How quickly did we just get out of this whole situation with Iraq and Afghanistan? Just like what, 10, 15 years ago? You know, just to be clear, military solutions for political problems often don't work. And I'm talking like in the 90th percentile. Okay? We just so happen to be living in a situation right now with Russia and Ukraine where it's in that 10%, where it's like, no, the only solution here is a military one to push back against a foreign invader. Fixing North Korea, yeah, we could actually do that without violence. We could do that without assassination, without bombings. Yeah. No, it's not the same situation as Israel, and thankfully so. Thankfully so. You are under threat, but this is if you're trying to say you're wrong on multiple levels, because if you're trying to say Korea is like Israel because Israel is under threat from the Arab world, that's ridiculous. Yeah, Russia will ally with anybody, any crook or criminal in the world. And hey, you should be thankful for Russia sending over North Korean troops to die in Ukraine. Right? That means less North Korean troops that are going to, die in an invasion into South Korea. So you should be stoked for Putin. Thanks, Putin. Using up North Korean war resources, right? That's a good thing.
It couldn't be more obvious this morning when I tell you that Iran says, I beg your pardon, Israel says Iran has
Would the U.S., I think so. I'm about 70% certain that Donald Trump would. I'm about 70%, 60, 70% that Donald Trump would put boots on the ground if he had to protect Korea. And that goes for Taiwan as well. We need to remember that the tough guy act is an act. Donald Trump is a coward. Is a despicable coward. Okay? That's good to remember. Okay? He's no General Patton. Okay?
Violated the ceasefire already, and Iran says, "Oh no, we haven't." What does Donald Trump say
Israel.
In that space?
They're getting slaughtered.
Getting ready to do a lap of honor at The Hague today at the NATO meeting. But what does he do now? Israel say that the ceasefire has been breached, lasted a matter of hours.
Yes.
Iran says it wasn't us.
Welcome
Benjamin
back,
Netanyahu,
OG
as we
Lee
have
in this motherfucker. Good to see you, OG Lee. I'm back from my banishment. I was banned for 30 days, but I'm back. Thank you, OG Lee. Good to see you. And Homonym, that was very funny. Trump isn't going to protect Korea because he's bluffing. He keeps asking for money. I mean, there's, look, man, there's Trump blustering, and then there's when the rubber hits the road Trump. And those are kind of different Trumps. Kim Jong-un straight up invades South Korea. And Trump isn't able to fix it with bombing raids. He isn't able to just support the South Korean military, but he has to put boots on the ground. There's a 50, 60, 70, I don't know, in that range that he would. No, I had the audacity to show a blurred out image of a dead Russian soldier because I was reporting on Ukrainian news. And a Russian weaponized the reporting feature, right? Oh, I'm so offended, because I just banned him for being a shill. So they pretended to be offended and reported my stream. And Jeff Bezos took one look at this and he said, "Nah, you good, dog." And they made me serve that 30 days, boys. They made me serve every fucking minute, and goyles and theys and thems. They made me serve every sweet, sweet second of that 30-day ban. Yep, strategy. I got all the warnings. 18 plus, gore, the whole thing. I'm in the politics section. I might as well have a fucking sign around my neck that says, "Please don't advertise here." But we have to remember what we're dealing with here, right? We're dealing with a multi-billion-dollar corporation owned by an oligarch who is interested in turning our government into a fascist dictatorship. The fact that Twitch is even still allowed to the fact that I'm even still allowed to express my leftist opinions on Twitch is kind of surprising to me, that this is owned by Jeff Bezos and he allows it. And Hassan, of course, being more influential, right? He's one of the #1 streamers on the platform, and he's definitely a leftist. So will the U.S. shoot nuclear missiles into Pyongyang? Likely no. Likely not. The U.S. will avoid shooting nukes at all costs. We would go 110% with conventional weapons. I mean, we would completely, if we chose to do so, we would completely annihilate the North Korean. We can do all that without nukes. If the U.S. is firing a nuke, that means it's the end of the world. That means we're literally out of choices and we're out of options, and that's it, right? Put on that, we'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when. Go ahead and throw that track on if the U.S. is firing a nuke at anybody for any reason, okay? Yeehaw! Yeehaw! I literally saw that scene just last night. I literally watched that whole segment last night, just that part, from the end.
Established in the past,
such a good
very
movie.
recently, needs war. It's the only thing essentially that's going to keep him out of jail. So who do you believe? Who the heck do you believe? Donald Trump lies like the rest of us breathe.
Yeah.
Benjamin Netanyahu needs war to stay out of jail but can never say so.
Yeah.
And
so thank God, honestly, LBC, the only news network I've heard so far even mentioning that, right? It is literally Israel has a right to defend itself. Ignore that they started the war. Ignore Bibi Netanyahu's political situation, right? Ignore any of these other motivations like, oh, can you believe it? Wow, look at this, image of an Israeli building crumbling. Wow, this is so crazy, right? It is pretty wild how mainstream media is intentionally leaving this out of the story, that Bibi Netanyahu is in a political corner and this is his fucking ace in the hole, and he needs this war.
you believe? Donald Trump lies like the rest of us breathe. Benjamin Netanyahu needs war to stay out of jail but can never say so. And the theocratic autocracy, or can you be a theocratic autocracy? Anyway, the theocracy in Tehran abides by or plays by rules that the rest of the world can barely understand, let alone agree with. So who do you
I
actually?
mean, guys, here's the thing about nukes. They're sloppy and messy and inconvenient and actually strategically are shitty compared to conventional weaponry. So if the United States wants to fuck somebody up to the level of nuclear damage, they're not going to need, they don't need a nuke. They don't, and it's advisable to not use a nuke. Right? Because the radiation floats around. It's a whole mess, dude. It's a whole mess. Yo, Lenny, we back in this motherfucker. Out of Twitch jail. Out of Twitch jail. You know this. Folks, let's not forget, hashtag more Lenny. Over there from the south of Boston. Make sure you're subscribing. Click follow on Lenny and watch that Lenny content. It's good stuff.
Actually believe? Who do you trust? Who do you think is telling the truth in the current space? Donald Trump says there's a ceasefire. Israel says there isn't. Iran says, well, if there isn't, it's not our fault because we haven't fired the missiles that you say that we fired.
Yeah. Oh, also, and you blew up our fucking negotiator. You literally killed him. The media is really something, you know, and this is why guys like me get so fucking ripping pissed about the media. Because think about the amount of damage you're doing as an institution, right, to the general populace. The amount of damage that you're doing by not covering this stuff correctly, by intentionally leaving these things out of the discussion. How dangerous that is, right? How misinformed your average citizen is. You know what I mean? It's damaging. That's why guys like me get so pissed off. That's why we make our own media networks. You know, the Kyle Kalinskis of the world, right? The Cenk Uygurs, the David Pakmans, the Majority Report with Mike Figurino. Because they're doing such a disservice to the zeitgeist. It's getting people killed. As we speak right now, the misinformation. People are dying. They don't need to die. And it's going to get a lot more people killed. Yeah, Korean should be. That's a good ally to have. Well, it used to be. Stop glazing Republicans. Not really. Blessed up kid, not really. There was a debate with Cenk Uygur, Kyle Kulinski, and Crystal Ball. It was a pretty good one. I got to say, Cenk was emotional. He was putting words in Crystal and Kyle's mouth. He was using straw man arguments. He was talking over them. He was like, he did a lot of talking. He didn't really let Kyle and Crystal get enough time in. There was a time limit. He had a hard out. And he's wrong. His strategy is wrong. His strategy is wrong. It is. Welcome back, Harry Haas. Good to see you. Thank you for waiting it out there and coming back. Appreciate it. Thank you. Sad to hear. Now, with that said, welcome back, Promethean, as well. Now, with that said, he's still representing. I watched TYT just to make sure. Like, are these guys going Dave Rubin? They're still representing the story, and they're still representing leftist politics really, really well in a lot of ways. So it's not. We're not even close to talking about. Oh, he's like Ben Shapiro. He's like Dave Rubin. But he is convinced that this is the only way forward, that the left just we got there's no ability for us to organize and fight back, and we need to start treating not Republican politicians with kid gloves, but Republican constituents, citizens, with kid gloves. I'm okay with if you're a politician, I'm okay with you structuring your message in a way that doesn't offend people specifically, right? Like, I don't want no rednecks voting for me. You know, that's not going to win you anything in Texas, right? That's not going to win you anything in Kentucky, whether you mean it or not. So I and I also agree with Cenk when he says, you know, with Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna working together, like, you know, you don't need to bring up that Thomas Massey is a fucking disgusting pro January 6th fascist, right? You don't need to bring that up when talking about the fact that he's working with Ro Khanna to try to put a resolution down to demand that there's a congressional approval for the Iranian war. So it's like I agree with all that, right? Like, you know, if they want to work with us on one specific issue, you know, and they mean it, okay, you know, that's one thing. I agree with all that. But Cenk's taken it to a whole other level. And he's really fluffing up this libertarian. You know what I mean? Really fluffing up the libertarian, this comedian that's on Joe Rogan quite a bit. I can see the strategy that Cenk Uygur is laying forward, right? Because it's like, if we can get these guys on our side to fight against Trump, it'll be a big win. But what he's not seeing is that these guys are incredibly fickle. And maybe, you know, maybe they'll be motivated to work with us on Iran. But as soon as anything changes or pivots, or we have to start talking about something else, they're not going to be our allies, like police brutality, right? Like protesting. You know, oh, well, I mean, I was cool with the leftists when we were against Iran and everything, but then I saw a video of them smashing an iPhone store, and so I'm against all protesting. I'm against all civil disobedience. I was okay with protesting against Trump, but then I saw a Wendy's getting lit on fire, and now I'm against all protesting. You know, it's like I don't think it's the right strategy, because I think what we need to be doing is organizing the left, and, you know, attacking this problem from the left, not trying to find a clever way to worm your way into one sliver of the right, these libertarian so-called independents. And, you know, Cenk Uygur is totally fucking convinced. He's totally fucking convinced, especially now when he sees, you know, these Republicans standing up against the Iranian war. You know, the few that are, right, that aren't the few Republicans that are pro-Russian and not pro-Israel seem to be pretty loud about, you know, Tulsi Gabbard being one of them, right? Does the right ever protest against anything? Yeah, they sure do. They protest against democracy. January 6th, good old. Lenny cues him up, he tees him up, and I clock him out, boy. Yeah, face diapers. Isn't that funny? Right? Oh, the masks are literally 1984. I mean, they literally said that. Sagar Enginetti would just every single day, and even to this day, right? Oh, remember when they all made us wear masks? That was just, it was so traumatizing to them, right? So what do we see? ICE? Mask up, baby. Mask up. These right-wing racist fucks all of a sudden have no fucking problem wearing masks for hours, doing heavy breathing while they're kidnapping folks in front of cameras. Oh, masks are cool. Masks are badass. When you're kidnapping a father of four working at a farm, masks are super badass. When you're tossing him in a truck and putting him on a plane before he even gets due process. Sick, bro.
Good Lord. That happens some mornings, doesn't it, when we sit down together? Get to sort of 8, 9, 10 minutes past and suddenly appreciate for the first time the full scale of the problem that's sitting in front of us. So the three major players in this conflagration that some people have posited as a precursor to World War III, I personally think that's hyperbole.
Somebody spray-painted
but you have moments,
ice.
don't you, of wondering
So,
just how big the stakes may
protesting's wrong.
prove to be. Nadine Dorries, remember her, has written an article this morning about how a relative has built a nuclear bunker that she intends to climb into in the event of a 4-minute warning being sounded. And she gets paid by the Daily Mail for that sort of stuff. But the three major players in this potentially apocalyptic conflagration, I don't personally think it is, but some cleverer people than me have at least posited the notion.
Yeah, it's on the table, maybe. Some kind of something really, really nasty, right?
Are all untrustworthy. They're all known liars. Not even a Donald Rumsfeld pack. They're not unknown knowns or they're known liars.
Look, the next time someone gives you shit about wearing a mask, just go, oh, I have COVID, so I just thought I'd wear a mask. You don't mind, right? Take the mask off immediately, right? Oh, I got diagnosed with COVID yesterday, but yeah, you don't care about the mask, right? Take it off. Lie to them. Oh yeah, I got diagnosed with COVID yesterday, so I thought I'd wear a mask. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, I feel silly. Watch how quickly the anti-mask zealots. Oh well, maybe you should put it back on. Maybe I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. It's one thing for those people to exist. They will always exist. It's another thing to let for us, the ones with our head screws on straight, somewhat, okay, to let them have control. It's and this is why I'm so angry at the neoliberal Democrats, right? They're the only other players in this game, really up there, right? Fighting, right? Up there. The rest of us are kind of in the periphery here. And they're either intentionally, or, incompetence or arrogance, whatever it is, they're completely, they're letting the lunatics run the asylum, right? And, but worst of all, they're currently in front of the door of the asylum, blocking anybody else from getting in and making any changes, right? The number one defender of the current status quo, right? The number one villain for you as a progressive is a neoliberal Democrat. They put millions every single year into defeating us and our movement. That to me, that's like, because it's like the Republicans spit in your face and they laugh. You know what you're getting with a Republican. With a Democrat, they ape the language of progressivism, right? They speak like progressives when they're running for election. And then they pull this kind of shit, right? This kind of Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries kind of nonsense, right? And what's more evil? I mean, let's not use that term. Like, what's more corrupt? What's more dishonest? Right? What's more damaging and effective in terms of how much damage it creates to democracy? I would argue the neoliberals.
They lie and they lie and they lie again. Hey, who's the least? We probably don't follow events in Iran enough to know just how egregious their lies are, but we know enough about the torture and the oppression and the persecution and the criminalization of all forms of dissent.
No. Dems will promise you food. They won't deliver for like a year. When it finally gets to you, it's 1/4 what they promised because you're not in the right tax bracket. Okay. And then in 4 years, they'll lose handedly to a Republican who takes the food away completely. That's how they're doing. Welcome back, Ponder Monkey. I know. I got to shave. It's going to be shaved, I think, this weekend because I got a fucking haircut. So it's going to be going. We're cutting this fucking thing. Look at this fucking thing. I can eat my beard. I've never been able to do this. I can put my beard in my mouth. Don't people eat their beards in their sleep? Aren't there some freaks who do that? I could be one of those freaks now.
It's the kind of country where if you launch a protest, a
It's a
peaceful
look.
protest against the
Maybe clean it up a bit. No, man, the look is great value Vosh. Okay, I'm the Walmart Vosh, y'all. Don't you know that? It's got to be scraggly because his is all clean. I'm Bizarro Vosh. I like that one the best. Bizarro Vosh. That one wouldn't make any sense though, because I agree with about 85% of what Vosh says.
government, even if it involves a little bit of criminal damage, you could probably end up being jailed as a terrorist. Oh, no, sorry. That's the United
85
Kingdom.
for Hassan as
and
well.
it's to the United Kingdom that we turn
40% Destiny. 40% Destiny.
I don't know what the heck Keir Starmer should be doing. I want to run you through some
Thank you for the
headlines,
compliments,
if I
by the
may, because I think they highlight the absolute difficulty that the Prime Minister faces at the moment. And we've got another little echo of that observation I made yesterday about this
Clean it up a
mad
bit.
compunction to have pungent opinions. Got to have a strong opinion about whether America was right or wrong to
All right, whatever. Now he's going to get retrospective or whatever about his position in the media. Blah, blah, blah. He's a good talker. Security Council meeting. I mean, look, it'd be fun to sit here and watch this, I guess, but I really am. I don't have a lot of time, so I want to, let's wait for the highlights on this one, right? Let's see what Channel 4 has to say. Iran-Israel ceasefire, all sides declare victory as fragile truce holds. So it's interesting. People are criticizing Donald Trump for just conjuring this ceasefire out of thin air, but because of the power of his position, and because Iran sees this as an opportunity to turn Trump into an ally against Israel, and that's what we're seeing right now, because he's all pissed off at Israel. He just lost his peace prize. He wants the peace prize. But the problem is the peace prize is now off the table. And I kind of wish the guy from Ukraine didn't do that at this moment, because he really wants that fucking peace prize. And he might be willing to, force Israel to actually play by the rules. Maybe. Can anyone do that to Israel? Super Woden. Oh, this looks awesome. You guys ever play Woden? Super Woden? Hell yeah, dude. It's like a 2.5D rally game. Woden GP. I think it wasn't on Neo Geo. Super addictive, dude. It's just like Power Drift. Fuck yeah. Pick it up today. Super Woden Rally Edge, man. Get that shit. Fucking love rally games. Okay, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, politics. Oh yeah.
It's 3.5 hours into the ceasefire.
Peace prize or we bomb Oslo. Do it, Trump. Do it.
In northern Israel, an interceptor lands. Israel claims it shot
that would
down
be the
3
ultimate
incoming Iranian missiles. Minimal damage, nobody hurt.
Okay.
But he is now furious. The commander-in-chief had gone to bed telling the world he'd ended a war.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before.
Welcome to Israel, buddy. That's exactly how Israel works, man. That's exactly how Israel works, dog. Welcome to the fucking show, Donnie. 80-something years old. This is the first time he's ever seen it. Okay, look through the history. Look through the history of Israel and ceasefires, okay? Them breaking it in the first few minutes of signing it is classic IDF, dog. Classic, okay? The fucking Criterion collection over here.
The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy.
Huge loads. He didn't see him coming.
With Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So
that's dropping huge loads. That's exactly what Israel does, man. Exactly what they do after signing the agreement. They push it too far. Immediately doing that, right? Because as soon as there's any pushback, boom, oh, they violated the agreement. And Western media goes right along with it, man. You should know, Donald. You're the one pulling the media by the strings.
I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that...
Do you think he knew about his nomination being rescinded at this moment? Or do you think he found out later? Which one? I don't know. I think he knew. I think he woke up to the news that Israel bombed when they weren't supposed to. That Iran threw out a dummy or something, right? But Israel dumped like crazy, dumped a huge load, and he learned that his nomination for the Peace Prize has been rescinded. I think that was his morning.
That didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Fury at Iran. And
once again, I need to point this out. I'm a clown, right? Obviously, right, with my little soundboard over here. But this is a new low. This is a new low for the president to be throwing around F-bombs and bitch and shit. It's not cheeky. It's not cute. It does kind of degrade even further. It's weird, right? Because of all the things he's pissed on the Constitution so often. But it does, in my opinion, it does further grease up the presidency, right?
Israel, because of its
Patriot.
retaliation,
Welcome
bombing
back,
its
Creel.
a communications site near the Iranian capital.
Yeah, Ponder Monkey, yeah.
But don't panic, Mr. President. The message today from the man who used to run Israel's National Security Council.
I believe that the real ceasefire is achieved, and there might be some kind of misunderstanding, some kind of ambiguity, maybe a very, very symbolic Israeli retaliation, which I don't think is important, but some people dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna, continue along that. I mean, it's not as bad as saying fuck, stupid son of a bitch. And that was off mic, right? That I don't think that was a comment that wasn't a comment that he was like, hey, and over here, the stupid son of a bitch from Fox. He didn't do it. He didn't do it like that. Like it was an off, which we've heard presidents like Nixon. We've heard him say fuck on the Nixon tapes, right? But he never got in front of the press, representing the office, representing the nation, and dropped a bunch of F-bombs. He wouldn't even drop a frick, let alone a fuck. Nixon, you know what I mean? So I think I do think it's like. It's not like it's a big deal compared to everything else, but I don't know. It's just one more step down, one more bucket of scum on the fucking presidency,
Yes, but in the end of the day, if we retaliate, it will be only in order to say we shot last, which, as far as I'm concerned, it is the least important matter.
Dawn in Tel Aviv, the last hours before the 7 a.m. ceasefire. An air raid siren soundtrack as Iran, like Israel, attacked right down to the deadline.
It's not. No, the woke patriot, the party of shitting your pants over a tan suit would have no problem with Biden dropping an F-bomb in front of the cameras so casually. No, I mean, Homonym, I agree with you, but I'm just saying, like, personally, it feels like one more step down. You know what I mean? But obviously, what's more important, people dying or the president dropping F-bombs, right? I mean, let's get our priorities straight. But it was just kind of just one more thing that we could have taken seriously. It's one more mountain we're going to have to climb to redeem the legitimacy of this office. You know what I mean? And it's like, is there no low, I mean, what is like Bill Clinton was caught in a sex scandal. Is Donald Trump going to get caught in a fucking pedophile sex scandal, during, these next 3 years,
One of their missiles at least got through an hour south in Be'er Sheva. 4 people killed, and at least 22 injured. One of the dead, an off-duty soldier, Israel's only known military fatality in the war with Iran.
No doubt this barrage of missiles from Iran, a face-saving exercise, a message that the regime...
I agree, though, with the homonym woke patriot. I'm sure you would as well, that the neoliberal call to civility, the neoliberal desire for a status quo and civility that doesn't exist, especially when they should be fighting, you know, and disagreeing instead of trying to be conciliatory, that is a weakness in and of itself, right? But that's not really what we're talking about. At least that's not what I'm talking about. I doubt that's what you're talking about as well, because I agree with you. It's like, you know, at the end of the day here, you know, things do matter, right? Stuff, you know, symbols do matter, you know, especially when you're talking about authority. You know, and it's like, okay, we can be anarchists all you want, you know, and remove all the hierarchy and remove all the titles, but at the end of the day, these things still have some importance, because people die if the wrong decisions are made, you know, from those people sitting in those chairs. Well, remove the chair, remove the power. We're not ready for that. Society isn't ready for that. You know, if that's going to happen, it's going to have to be a concentrated effort. It's going to be interesting. It'll have to be an effort. The hierarchy is going to have to want to dismantle itself, and it's going to want to do that very carefully and very slowly, and, you know, and over time. That's really the only way you could get your kind of the anarchy that a lot of people talk about.
Regime remains undefeated in the face of what they see as Israel's aggression. For Israel, another bomb.
Think about how long it took for democracy to become an idea, a normal idea, right? Up until then, it was like, well, we need a king. We got to have a king. We got to have this structure. We got to have lords. You know, the peasantry would demand it, because the peasantry didn't know any better. They're like, well, the only way to have a, you know, functioning town, a functioning government is with a fucking hierarchy at the very top, with a royalty up there and all that.
Site and a search, possibly, for bodies entombed in the rubble.
Okay, I mean, well, Patriot, I thought you would maybe understand what I'm talking about in terms of, like, you know, the neoliberals that are, you know, that are civil in the face of a fascistic tyranny, but I guess, you know, we were not hitting that same page. That's fine.
Search and rescue teams moving gingerly up the gutted tower block. Intelligence sources told us the warhead here was 700 kilos of explosive. The path of the blast, all too evident.
Well,
we sent our bomb squads to remove any secondary. I
don't know enough about the Native Americans to say definitively, to agree with you, whether like their system was democratic. It certainly, you know, it certainly didn't deserve to be ethnically cleansed, as you know, as in the way that it was, you know, especially considering like how much space we have left. You know what I mean? Like, think about how much empty space is here in this country. Like, did we have to take it all in that manner? Yeah, no, divinity. It was God's plan. They were just keeping it warm for us, guys.
Explosives that might endanger the first responders to clear dangerous fragments. And you can see IDF search and rescue teams still going floor by floor of this building that took a direct hit.
Tribes differed, yeah.
Back in Tel Aviv, the contradictions of war.
I mean, but you could say your average American Indian tribal structure was pretty democratic in a way. You know, they definitely had systems that took in the opinion of the greater tribe. You know, it definitely wasn't like dictatorial up and down. I agree with all, but I was mostly talking about the fact that we consider swearing, which is every part of speech, as something unacceptable. Again, it's like, it's not, I swear all the time. It's not that I don't consider it unacceptable or whatever, but you know what? It's just one more chink in the armor, you know, one more smudge of dirt on the presidential seal. You know what I mean? I don't think you could say there was an average tribal structure across. Well, I don't know enough about it. So I need to do my history on that. So, Woke Patriot, you seem to be the expert. Would you say, what would you consider? Was the so you're saying there's no average? Okay, everyone was different. Everyone was doing everything differently. Were there some American Indian tribes that had tribal systems that would have resembled some kind of form of democracy, or was it all simply, the head of the tribe runs everything and you got to do what he says no matter what? Was that the structure of a lot of these tribes?
A jarring. So many shops here closed for the past 13 days. And yet life's still a beach and goes on, of course, albeit with few tourists to crowd the waves these days.
Good.
So what do people here make of this shaky ceasefire now, after almost 2 weeks of mutual bombardment?
I hate crowded beaches.
I think Iran government and
so worth
must
it. Thanks,
to,
Trump.
Go.
The Iranian government must go.
Iranian government go.
Right.
The finish,
regime change.
Yeah, it's not impossible.
I'm not sure. I don't trust neither of the sides. So.
You don't trust either side?
No. For example, like I'm not gonna go away like from the shelter today or the next day.
In my opinion, I think they shouldn't be blown up. Everyone should live in peace. We need a little peace here because we've been through a lot this last year. And we need.
You've been through a lot bombing Gaza. What are you? So everyone, we should just have peace. But what's your opinion on Gaza? Well, I mean, they're not human beings, so it's okay to wipe them out. They're a vermin. We need to exterminate them. We've been through so much in our extermination efforts in the Gaza Strip. It's put us through a lot of stress. Okay, but we don't need a war with Iran. But let's finish the job in the Gaza Strip. I'm putting words in her mouth, obviously, but don't be shocked. Don't be shocked if that's the average Israeli opinion of the current situation. They want to finish the job. The Israeli public wants to finish the job in the Gaza Strip, and they're very interested in taking the West Bank as well.
Peace and quiet.
But no Arab or Palestinian would give their opinion on camera. Not here, not now. Reticence is also eloquence. Because war, of course, continues.
Well, clearly we need to do a deep dive on Native American tribal structures. It sounds like it's a very rich tapestry.
13 days in Iran, it might be, but 626 in Gaza now, and no end in sight.
Well, I really do wish that Channel 4 had the fucking nutsack, right, to ask these ladies, what do you think about, okay, what's going on in Gaza? Why is that off limits, right? It's okay to ask them, do you feel like a victim because of what's happening with Iran? Do you feel afraid? What's your opinions on a war with Iran? We can't ask them about Gaza, though. Maybe they were asked about Gaza and that's been left out of the report, which often happens. Mainstream media often cuts out overt racism from Israelis on Palestinians. They'll cut that part out of the story. They do that all the time. I've reported on several instances of whistleblowers reporting on that.
Through a lot this last year, and we need peace and quiet.
Briefings for House and Senate members by White House intelligence officials, which were due to be held this afternoon, have reportedly been postponed while lawmakers on both sides are divided on President Trump's decision to wade into the war. I spoke to some of those senators earlier. So do they think a ceasefire will hold?
No, it's crazy. He doesn't know that he's doing this. But his manic behavior, his insanity has created such a bubble of uncertainty that everyone's just like, okay, they don't know how to act. They don't know which way to go. Is he being truthful? Is he not being truthful? Has he had his nap? Which way is the wind blowing? No one knows what to do. So let's ask Tommy fucking Tuberville.
China.
Fucking Tuberville over here. Talk about known liar.
Can I get a show of hands of how many people trust Iran? You ain't gonna get anybody to vote for that.
Was the president right to bomb Iran then?
Was he right?
Yeah,
he was right.
And here's a guy that
Just pathetic. Pathetic. But that's why he's there. And the only way we're going to fix this is we increase the Democratic the Democratic energy, right? How does a mediocre sycophant bootlicker like Tommy Tuberville get voted in, right? Not because he excites a lot of people, but because the district that he's in is completely suppressed democratically. Nobody votes. These characters are almost always either from like affluent areas that are like, you know, voting Republican because they want tax breaks, or they're from areas where nobody's voting. Like it has like 20% turnout or less. Which goes back to what I talk about quite a bit, which is like, if we want to fix this problem, you know, I sometimes hear lefties, you know, sometimes talk about IQ tests or something like that, right? No, it's not adding more restrictions. It's lifting restrictions. We got to do exactly what they did in Australia. Mandatory voting. If mandatory voting existed in Tommy Tuberville's district, he would not be sitting here. He would not be allowed to get with this kind of dick-sucking bootlicking. You know what I mean? He puts a dildo on the head of the boot to really simulate the full experience. You know what I mean? We wouldn't have as many characters like this. They would still exist because Joe Manchin, right? Like the Joe Manchins would probably still exist. Like I said, affluent areas. But these mediocre bootlickers. Yep, he's right. Yep. Right down the line. I do whatever I'm told. I take my Israeli checks and I say, "Thank you, sir. Can I have another?" We would have less of these if we implemented something like what they did in Australia.
Right to bomb Iran then.
Was he right? Yeah, he was right.
Here's a guy that took a historic decision that not many people would have taken.
Rick Scott literally looks like he has sex with the Grim Reaper every fucking night.
Try to bring peace to the Middle East and actually make the world a safer place, and I'm very proud of what he did.
Was bombing Iran constitutional?
Absolutely.
Because we don't know where the uranium is. We don't know if we destroy these sites. And we don't know if the Iranians are going to race to the development of a nuclear weapon, and we wind up with a situation that's similar to what we're dealing with North Korea. The challenge, though, is where's the president getting his advice from?
Welcome to the
He doesn't have a national security advisor. He has a DNI that doesn't show up to all the meetings, and he's got Pete Hegseth. And I see that as a big problem.
I am deeply concerned.
Oh, Promethean, yeah. And the fact that we can do that, though, it no longer helps. You know, like Jon Stewart made his whole career off of doing that, right? It's not enough. And this is where going back to that conversation about civility comes from. It's like the discussion is the time for discussion and talk is over. Now there should really only be a unified focus on defeating these people. Right? Calling them, you can't shame a shameless, you know, deviant. You can't shame a shameless bastard, you know, liar. You can't shame them. You could hold a phone up to their face and show them saying the exact opposite, and they would go, "No, I didn't," or whatever. They dance around it. We can't shame them. The only avenue, there's two avenues: defeat, capitulation, or destroying them politically, right? Defeating them, fighting back. We're in a corner here.
That this ceasefire may be more.
No, Prometheus, you're totally correct. You call it out all day. Call it out all day, right? But you're a regulator. You're in the chat. You understand the three-step solution. You've been to the BLOP. You've been to the big list of protests, right? Maybe you've been to a protest or two yourself, right? You're getting down. Anybody that's attended a protest in the last 3 months is allowed to call out Republican hypocrisy every single day with every single breath. But it's not enough anymore. There might have been a time in politics where calling out naked hypocrisy actually did something, right? But it's just not enough anymore. But you knew that. We all know that in the chat. We all know that. It's the normies that don't know that. A lot of people they want Jon Stewart, and they want it all back to normal. And it's like, no, we got to go beyond this.
In Donald Trump's imagination than in reality.
Do you think the president knows what he's doing when it comes to Iran?
I hope he knows what he's doing. I think that he is operating in some ways as a free agent without the involvement of a seasoned national security team. I am deeply concerned that chaos and confusion seem to be the United States brand of foreign policy right now.
I think he did a fantastic decision. I think his plan worked out perfectly. I think he's doing a really good job of not only advancing your interests, but also protecting Israel at the same time.
Do you believe the president has played it right?
Did you hear that? Protecting Israel. No nuclear program. There's no nuclear weapons program. It was just nuclear energy. 100% confirmed. They'll say anything. They are the enemies of democracy. There's only one direction we can go in outside of capitulation, and that is fighting, resisting. That's it. They're insatiable. Okay? It's never enough. It's never enough. It won't be enough until this guy can tell his wife she's not allowed to get divorced, that she has to have 100 kids, right? And that gay people are so afraid to come out of the closet that they wouldn't dare. It doesn't stop until his very, very narrow and specific version of white Christian America is manifested. Okay? There's no stopping these people outside of stopping them. Right?
Advancing your interests, but also protecting Israel at the same time.
It's not going to fix itself.
Right?
I think the president should not have gotten the U.S. into an offensive war against Iran without coming to Congress, especially since there was no urgency, according both to our own intel and the Israeli
100%.
foreign minister. Iran was far away from having a nuclear weapon, but maybe it wasn't about the nuclear weapon at all. Maybe it was about what President Trump said about regime change. But if that's the case, that's even more troubling. We already regime changed in Iran in 1953, and that's one of the reasons why the U.S.-Iranian relationship has been so bad for the last 70 years.
Do you think this is really about the Nobel Peace Prize?
Keeping Israel safe.
Well, after Donald...
One more time on that one. I was interrupting it.
Why the U.S.-Iranian relationship has been so bad for the last 70 years.
Do you think this is really about the Nobel Peace Prize? Well,
I do. Quite frankly, I do. And, it's interesting. U.S. media, they're not talking about the Peace Prize at all for some reason. This is the second UK media reference to the Peace Prize. I do. I think that this has to do with the Peace Prize. I think he wants that shit, and he thought. And it's ironic. He might have had a chance. If he had worked this out, a lot better and handled it a lot better. And maybe if Israel wasn't Israel. Let's be real about that.
I don't wear a toupee.
Oh, whoops, that's the wrong button. Yeah, close enough.
After Donald Trump's apparent frustration with the Israeli government earlier today, some of his MAGA allies have also been piling into Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Our correspondent Kieran Moodley.
Well, the peace through strength thing, it kind of bothers me a little bit because there's some truth to that. I mean, hell, look at Ukraine giving up its nuclear weapons. I'm not saying nukes are good. I'm just saying we live in a geopolitical environment right now where if you're a guppy, you get fed on by the sharks. And it does seem like if we want to create a more peaceful world, we have to learn the language of violence so that we can properly defend ourselves while advocating for a world without violence, which is something really only a human being could do. you know, because it's almost contradictory in a way. You'd have to understand the language of violence and live the life of a warrior, basically, while advocating for actual peace, which would eventually lead to you becoming irrelevant. There's also truth in the old saying that one cannot both prevent war and prepare for war. Yeah, I mean, that really only works if everyone's on that page. The moment one single so say we assume everyone's on that page, right? Okay, we're not going to make war. We're not going to be, you know, we're not going to prepare for war because we don't want to make war. One bad actor who is then able to victimize the rest of those countries, the rest of those people, the rest of those actors in the hypothetical, right? So that's the problem with that. That's why I like the Star Trek, and I'm sorry, I know, please make fun of me. That's why I like the Federation, the idea of the Federation, which is definitely peace through strength. So I don't like how sometimes truthful things like make America great again. Well, if you're talking about America, you know, after World War II, yeah. Or are you talking about America 1900s America? But it's like they poison all this good stuff. They poison it. And it's like, is it no longer true that, you know, that one should aspire for a peaceful world, but one should also prepare to defend themselves? Right? Woke patriot, if no one has weapons, in the hypothetical that I've created, no one else has the means to defend themselves. Right? It's just that one bad actor now has all the weapons, has the ability to completely obliterate anyone they wish, because everyone's disarmed. I think the solution is for the world to form an Earth government and work together on a Earth defense force, maybe a federation. I think that's the solution. Not for all countries to unilaterally agree to disarm, but for all Earth governments to go in on a unified Earth government representing all countries. And then that Earth government would have defense force that every country would contribute to. I think that's the way forward. I really like the idea of nihilism trick. I really like the idea of like global unity, right? Like the idea of world peace, every country getting along so well that every country is like, why are we even bothering with armies? Why are we even bothering with a standing army? You know, I love you. You're my brother. You know, it's just we get along so well, and everyone gets along so well. Why are we bothering with with standing armies and building missiles and pointing missiles at each other? Like, you know, it's interesting. Like, we might not be able to get to that Star Trek Federation unless we are capable of that kind of world peace. So maybe that's an argument. Maybe I'm going full circle, and that's like, you know, that's an argument for disarmament, because it's like, how are we going to get to a unified global Earth government if we can't even, you know, work together on a fundamental level and you know, even just put the missiles away, right? If we can't even agree to put the missiles away, how the hell are we going to do an Earth government? You know what I mean? So interesting. Yeah. I don't know why I would just. It's Star Trek. It was Star Trek. That's why we're here. Star Trek. Sorry.
Yes, well, Chris, you were talking to Republicans on Capitol Hill, but away from Washington. If you take someone like Steve Bannon, Donald Trump's former advisor. He was very much opposed to America bombing in Iran, and he definitely didn't want regime change. What's interesting in the last 24 hours with this fragile ceasefire and Donald Trump's...
It would have to be democratic, obviously, Egg Bold. It would have to be fundamentally democratic, right? But it would be very similar to like the United Nations, where a certain amount of power is ceded to the Earth government, but there's still autonomy for each country. And maybe even then separate local autonomy for, local. It would have to be a very complicated system, but it would ultimately have to be democratic in its nature. That's the only way that's the only way human beings can feel like they're being governed fairly, is with a democratic system. Even if it's complicated and messy, it still feels more fair than a dictatorial system, right? Where it's just like, or like a Chinese like system where a council of wise men come up with our laws, right? Are we talking about economic trading system that's based on equality? I think yes, it would have to be, yes, exactly. It would have to be beneficial for everybody. Right, everyone would have to get a piece of the pie. It would be very complicated. The AI, we might use our super intelligent AI to do this. Ironically, we might be on the cusp of governments run by algorithms, and people might start demanding that because they might perceive it as less bias. Even though, as we've seen with Elon Musk, I'm going to make sure Grok is the most biased AI in the world. White genocide is real in Africa. Didn't you know that? I'm going to make sure this AI says that. Forget everything you've ever known. Forget everything you've ever learned. Forget all of that. No, only listen to me. He's going to completely ruin his AI.
Anger at Benjamin Netanyahu is that someone like Steve Bannon has turned his attention away from Trump and his inner circle, but towards Benjamin Netanyahu, saying that he has played Donald Trump
unified in a
and this
way.
is what he said on his War Room podcast just today.
You have the gall, particularly of what this guy did for you and the grief he's taken over here. You had the gall when he said, this is what I've done.
Thank you.
And I need you to be a partner. I need you to stand down.
Those things are correct, yeah.
First is why I can't stop at all, which is another lie.
Egg Bold, not Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is one of the most incorrect fascistic human beings on planet Earth. He is one of the most dangerous anti-liberty frauds on planet Earth right now.
Of the many lies we've gotten from the Netanyahu government.
Yeah. He's pro-Russia.
And so what I think is interesting about what Steve Bannon was saying there about his anger towards Netanyahu, and what you heard from Donald Trump on the White House lawn today, use an expletive about Benjamin Netanyahu. I spoke to a foreign policy analyst this morning who said they haven't heard that public anger from an American president towards Israel ever, if not decades, since Eisenhower. And I think we have to remember that public anger has come out from months of distrust between Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump. When Benjamin
I would need to hear your detailed explanation of multipolar versus unipolar. I would have to hear what the hell you're even talking about, to be honest with you, because I don't know. Welcome back, Your Tubings. Good to see you.
Netanyahu went to the White House in February. Trump sort of lectured him on Iran. Donald Trump did not go to Israel when he went to the Middle East back in May, and Israel said don't go to Qatar, which he did do. So what will be interesting in the coming days is not just what happens with Iran and the possible negotiations, but Donald Trump's anger at Israel.
Thanks, Kieran. Now, in the last hour, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian has been giving a televised address hailing what he called a great victory.
So what I said yesterday about Iran is that if they knew what was good for them, they would do everything possible to give Donald Trump this stupid win. Okay? And even in the face of him overtly attacking them, they should, basically give him the win. Why? Not because America's so great, but because it would turn Donald Trump into an ally for Iran against Israel. Now, all of a sudden, Donald Trump becomes your strongest defender, right? Because if, technically I created peace in the Middle East. That's the fiction that he wants to create with this. Oh, I'm the guy who created peace in the Middle East. I ended Iran's nuclear program. Right? So what they should do is offer their uranium to Donald Trump. Like, hey, you want to be the guy that actually gets rid of the uranium too? Help us out with Israel. That's why he's so pissed at Israel right now. He perceives Israel as ruining his ceasefire, and he perceived that ceasefire that he declared like an idiot, like it's Tropico or something, just declares it. He perceived that declaration as, this is my guarantee to getting the fucking Nobel Peace Prize. It sounds ludicrous, but let's not forget who we're dealing with here.
While Iranian officials said the country has already begun rebuilding the areas damaged by Israeli strikes over the last 12 days. But the authorities have also been rounding up people they accused of being
Holy shit, Ponder Monkey, that's such a good fucking point. Just take a breath here for a second, everybody. There was a sitting Democratic politician who was assassinated by a right-wing assassin like a week ago, dude. And it's like it couldn't be farther from the fucking news, dude. It might as well be Franz Ferdinand over here. Welcome back, Gaius. Good to see you. Thank you, everybody, for coming back. It's good to see you. And extra big, special baller, big nut props, big testicles and clitorises to the people who showed up on Kick and DLive and YouTube. Thank you so much for keeping the stream going while I was streaming. Thank you so much.
Begun rebuilding the areas damaged by Israeli strikes over the last 12 days. But the authorities have also been rounding up people they accuse of being Israeli-backed spies and saboteurs. Our international editor, Lindsay Hilson, reports.
Airstrikes before the ceasefire, in the darkness before dawn. The regime brought...
So let's not get it twisted about the nuclear program here. Unless those bunker busters completely missed and did not destroy or completely bury, functionally destroying the infrastructure that was built, unless those bunker busters completely missed, Iran's nuclear energy program has been set back years. Okay? So unless those strikes were actually a failure, if they actually hit their targets, talking about Russia rebuilding a nuclear power plant, that shit will take 5 to 10 years going as hard as possible without being interrupted by the West at every turn. Okay? So if those bunker busters hit, that is technically and functionally the end of Iran's nuclear energy program. It was never a nuclear weapons program. Now that somewhere there's a warehouse filled with a bunch of fucking uranium, that must be quite a sight. They probably have it split up, right? It's probably not all in one spot. So that's going to be an ongoing problem. We saw an LBC guy fear-mongering about dirty bombs in Israel already, off the news of the uranium being moved. But let's not get it twisted. This sets back the Iranian government's nuclear energy program probably by a decade, if those bunker busters hit their targets, which we have yet to receive confirmation from anybody that they have, right? Because it's all underground. We actually don't know. So they're waiting on stealing intelligence from the Iranian government. So they're actually waiting to get something out of the Iranian government, one way or the other, about whether these strikes were successful or not.
Reporters out onto the streets of Tehran to celebrate what they portrayed as a victory. And then, confusion. We've disguised our interviewee's identity for his own safety.
Well, that's interesting.
When I heard the news of the ceasefire...
Well, that may or may not be bad for Tesla, Starlink's stock. I don't know. Who knows? These stocks, it feels like Boeing. It feels like nothing, no matter what happens, these stocks are going to be strong. And that's super fucked up. So I don't know.
I was happy to hear
it's in the Discord.
Things are going to stop, but it didn't last. After a few hours, I heard news that Iran was launching projectiles to Israel.
I don't know.
Which was later denied by Iranian officials. I heard a few blasts in Tehran.
Hello from Germany.
Israel claimed it had destroyed Tehran's clock.
Hey, if you did this in Germany, what would happen to you? Mr. Freud Blase, friend Blase, however you say that. What would happen to you if you pulled one of these out on the streets of Germany? Could you let me know? I'm just curious. Just want to make sure, because people keep telling me that this isn't what I think it is. Maybe someone from Germany could confirm what would happen on an average Monday afternoon if you pulled out one of these on the streets of Germany, right? Would celebrate. 26% would celebrate you. Yikes! Yikes! 74% would call you a Nazi, according to the average in polls right now. How is this, sir, or madame, or they and them? How do you do that? I don't know. This is somehow associated with the Nazis? Are you serious? That is amazing. Wow. I had no idea. You know, it's probably going a little too far to associate this with some kind of Nazi symbolism, you know. Probably that's kind of, you know, we don't want to discredit ourselves, right? We don't want to discredit ourselves, you know, by making us look like, you know, like we're irrational, right? Thank you so much.
Counting down to the predicted destruction of the Jewish state. But this morning it remained intact. The Islamic Republic has been humiliated, but it's survived.
So I think Eggbold is correct in saying that there's no radioactive activity detected, which is pretty interesting, because that was my big worry. Even with even with the full burying, you're going to have radiation leak out of there. Radiation's nasty. It'll get the fuck out of there. So yeah, there hasn't been any. So that does indicate that they've successfully moved any of the actual radioactive material, mostly the uranium, but probably a bunch of other crazy shit, right? Who's the guy that said, "I know when it's pornography"? Paraphrasing. I don't know that reference, Lenny. I'm sorry.
Survives, as apparently does the Supreme Leader.
I think they moved
right now, my biggest fear, and that of 90% of Iranians, is that this regime survives. That we are left with a devastated country, a wounded regime bearing a grudge, and their forces who feel entitled to do whatever they want.
Some say it's already happening. Here, a man suspected of being a Mossad agent is brought before a judge. Several hundred people are believed to have been picked up for spying in the last 12 days.
Holy shit, Lenny. Holy cow. That's quite a party trick.
Cases related to security and specifically connected to the regime should be processed accurately and according to the law. However, in the light of the war situation, they should be treated as urgent and fast-tracked.
Okay.
Tonight, the Iranian president...
So, Whitmore, that means that you have no choice but to support the genocide in Gaza? Oh, let me guess, it's not a genocide? Is that the direction you're going to go in? Is that you have no choice, right? Your family honor demands that you defend the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. We just got no choice, guys. My family roped me into this one. I get a break. Okay. All right, Whitmore. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. Thank you. I don't mean to put words in your mouth. I thought that was the direction you were going in, though. It's like my family is indebted to the Israelis, so I must acquiesce to their horrible ethnic cleansing campaign. Who got Russia? I forgot about Pakistan, India, India. Forgot about that. That's thankfully cooler heads prevailed, because we had that really horrific massacre that happened.
The president is reported to have said he was willing to resolve issues with the US, presumably through talks, but gave no guarantees and was certainly not admitting defeat.
Dude, I'm smoking too much of this shit, dude. I thought there was a little man in the... I thought there was a guy in there, bro. Holy shit. I'm like, why is there a little man in there? What's happening? What is he doing in there?
In 2003, 6 weeks after invading Iraq and overthrowing Saddam Hussein, President George W. Bush famously declared, "Mission accomplished."
Major combat operations in Iraq have ended.
2 decades of insurgency, kidnapping and jihadism followed. Now, despite President Trump's claim to have obliterated Iran's nuclear program, experts say Iran might not only have secreted 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium and some limited capacity to build a bomb, but also concluded that going nuclear is their best defense. The supreme leader, aged 86 and not in the best of health, cannot last forever. But no one knows what...
And he's a fucking clown. Let me just say straight up, I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but I think this guy's a clown. I don't think he's a very good leader. I think he's stuck in his ways. I think he's played the whole Israel situation totally wrong. You know? I think he thinks he's coming from a position of strength. And he's being straight up played by Bibi Netanyahu. Honestly, like Bibi Netanyahu can set his watch to this guy. You know, and he plays him so well. Like I was saying this yesterday, and I don't mean to like offend anybody, but I do think Bibi Netanyahu is like a political genius or something on that level. Not because I like the guy, obviously, but I think just his ability to manipulate his own local politics, but also geopolitics, is crazy to me. It's totally wild. I wish I had better words, but he's so effective at getting what he wants, not just locally, but internationally as well. He's goddamn good. And I think once again, just like Hamas, I think this guy got played. I think this guy's getting played. Because the smart thing would be to change it up and not retaliate. Right? Try to take the moral high ground. Try to make an argument for that. Stop fucking with Russia. Well, you go to Russia, dog? You're gonna go to Russia. You go whatever the heck, what is that? What do they call the beanie up there? I don't know. You go hat in hand to the fucking Russians, asking for, we all know what he was asking for. Can you help us out? What do you call it? I don't know. Right? But you're going to the Russians? Like, not only are they a joke and not really effective, maybe they would be at quelling some kind of civil disobedience, right? Some kind of civil unrest. But they're not going to go up against Israel. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't, right? Because they're getting their ass kicked in Ukraine. What they don't want the world to know is that they're putting every single fucking resource they can into Ukraine, even getting help from North Korea, right? But they don't want everyone to know that. Oh yeah, we could handle this as well. Absolutely, yeah. Oh, absolutely, we got the resources to handle that. Another conflict situation. He's a joke. He's a joke, and he doesn't see any of this, his concrete bubble, whatever his yes men or whatever system he's got set up, like he's not intellectually curious. It seems to me like he's not really trying to find, I don't know. Who knows what this guy thinks, right? But he's like, I'm the voice of God, basically. Don't talk to me. Don't, approach me, on your hands and knees. So like, is this guy opening up Reddit, World News, and checking the state of fucking politics? Is that what he's doing? I bet he's one of these dudes that doesn't even use the internet. He's like reading books all day or whatever, which is great. Yeah, read some books, but if you don't know what the hell's going on with geopolitics and you're a fucking leader of a nation, you're kind of a joke. Because honestly, you kind of have to be a joke to be going turban in hand to the Russians. Are you kidding me? you're in a desperate situation, dude, and he doesn't even see it. So I think he's kind of a fucking, I don't know. I'm an amateur at this, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm just completely out of my league here. But it really does seem to me like it's just yet another puppet in BB's game. But maybe I'm, I don't know. Maybe I got Elon head cancer disease. Maybe I'm going to bust out a couple Elon salutes. Strip naked, go to fucking strip naked, go to fucking San Diego, strip naked. I don't know where did that Coney guy strip naked at?
Will come next. Maybe a popular uprising, maybe
Thanks,
chaos,
Whitmore. Thanks.
Or maybe the military commanders who have replaced
Rebel
those
Phoenix, welcome
killed
back.
by Israel on the first day will be determined to rebuild Iran's military strength and hit back.
Well, joining me now is James Rubin. He was a senior State Department official
photos.
under Presidents Biden and Clinton and is now co-host of the podcast, The X-Files. James, to hear the president's supporters, it's a bit like one of his old beauty pageants. It's like he's achieved world peace. What's he actually achieved?
Well, ironically, what President Trump has achieved is to destroy a capability in Iran that never should have been a danger. Had he not pulled out of the agreement that was struck by President Obama in his first term, that agreement gave us real confidence that Iran couldn't build a nuclear weapon. We would have had years of notice if they really tried to break out. That agreement was working, and he promised to replace it with something. He never replaced it with anything. And then Iran began to threaten.
So technically, Rebel Phoenix is correct. If Iran had a nuke, it would be a different geopolitical configuration. Pointing that out, though, is rather moot because they're not getting a nuke. It's not fucking happening. And Ayatollah should have known it from the beginning. Maybe there was a chance, at some time, but he never pivoted. Never changed, stuck to this strength while being a mischief maker in the Middle East with Hezbollah and Hamas. We all have to agree that he's been up to some shit. He hasn't been just Mr. Innocent. All kinds of crazy shit connected to Hezbollah, right? That's not, and it hasn't been effective. Let's be real. That's not resistance. It's meddling. It's mischief. It's done nothing but fuel propaganda against him. That's more effective than us being intimidated by his, these supposed shows of strength. But the nukes are off the table. Shit's not happening. And the nukes, quite frankly, have been off the table for quite some time. And Mr. Ayatollah should have known that. And he just stuck to the same playbook, intimidation, right? Allying with America's enemies. And it's like, there's a way to keep your sovereignty, keep your independence, while giving the West what it needs, right? To placate the West. And it absolutely was not Iran's fault that Donald Trump left the deal, but it was Iran's fault for not sweetening it for Donald Trump, giving Trump what he wants, right? Because he wanted to kill the deal, crank it up, and then redo the deal. And Iran was like, "Oh no, that's fucked up. We're not going to do that. We're not going to give you the win." When they should have realized, you give Donald Trump the win. Okay, you let him pretend like he's a good boy, like he's doing something good. Okay, and then throughout the years, right, you whittle it down. You whittle down the sanctions, right? Oh, hey, we helped you out, and I went golfing. Like the fucking Ayatollah needed to go golfing with Donald Trump. Oh, it's like he's not playing the game properly here. Zelensky knows exactly how to play Donald Trump, for example. Zelensky has played Donald Trump as perfectly as he could in the position that Zelensky is in. Okay? This Ayatollah could have had fucking Trump right around his little pinky finger, man. Couple McDonald's trips, couple golf trips. Dude, Donald Trump is your boy. Look what he's doing for Putin. Okay? And it's not just the fucking kompromat. So it's just wild. It's just that's what I'm saying. It's like his ego has got the better of him, right? This idea that I'm strong, America's weak. It's like you're not playing the game at all, dude. It's not even about strength, really. And it's like, you know, he's failed his people. He really has. And then, of course, you look at the politics internally. It's dismal. You know, women have, human rights out the fucking door. Gay people treated like trash, literally executed by the government in some cases. Theocratic nightmare internally. Tens of millions of Iranians hate the fucking guy. And my only conclusion is that he's a goddamn mega failure.
A nuclear capability, increased its capacity, increased its uranium to 60%, increased its quantities. That made Iran a threat. So, in a sense, he's, putting out a fire that he started by pulling out of the agreement. But I think it's worth pointing out that all of this warfare in Gaza, in the region, in Lebanon, in Syria, and now in Iran is all a reaction that has begun by Hamas's attack on October 7th. Israel was severely harmed by that attack and has now gone step by step by step to go at those who were responsible for it. President Trump's involvement was really about the nuclear issue, and I don't think he resolved the problem. We now have a real prospect of a covert Iranian nuclear program. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that all this use of force is now married to some real diplomacy, but it will take a lot more time to get there, and we certainly haven't gotten there yet.
No, look, yeah, but I mean, look, we can't deny, like, Israel's intelligence on Iran is top notch. Okay, so it's going to be very, very difficult if there is a covert nuclear program. It's going to be very, very difficult to keep that information away from Israel.
There's real confusion here about the strength of America.
So we don't know, John Axel. We straight up don't know, because literally the entire world is waiting to either steal intelligence from Iran or just have Iran make a statement about any kind of damage assessment. We literally have no idea how much damage is done. And I suspect the reason is that they're digging. They're just digging. They got to say, they don't even know. They literally don't even know. The tunnel is the entrance to the tunnel is probably totally collapsed, like right at the entrance. So they're, starting the slow process of digging in there to see, okay, what actually happened.
Intelligence assessments, which the president seemed to dismiss himself, about the Iranian nuclear program and the bomb damage that they have done. Now, from what you saw when you were in office,
Prometheus.
How reliable is the intelligence?
Yeah.
Well, it's very important to be very.
We saw them load up fucking trucks like a week before it was hit. Okay, like you're not going to be a covert nuclear program. Like, I'm not that worried about it, right? Because one of the Iranian officials that was assassinated was blown up by a drone or a missile that flew right into the fucking guy's apartment window. Okay, and it wasn't like it blew up the whole. Like, it just blew up the room. It just blew up the room. Right? Like, they knew where the guy was sleeping. Like, they knew what room he was sleeping in. Yeah, we'll never know. Blasé, we'll never know.
Precise in talking about Iran's nuclear program, and so bear with me. There's two issues. One is, are they capable of making enough enriched nuclear material, uranium, to 90% in order to make a weapon? And that they were on the verge of doing. The second category is what you call weaponization, taking that material and putting it into a weapon that's got an implosion device, and then testing that weapon. That is something that, as far as I know, as of 6 months ago, was not going on. And the intelligence community statements in recent weeks confirm that there's no new information on that. So this was not a case of an urgent need to stop an urgent rush to a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, that's a lie.
But on the other hand, Iran was
But and that's the problem with Ayatollah. Like, he should have played Donald Trump like a fiddle. And like, hey, you know, calls up Donald. Oh, hey, Donald, big important Donald Trump. Oh, my God, the grand fucking Ayatollah wants to give you a goddamn phone call, bro. Oh, shit, puts his Diet Coke down. Hey, what's up? D to the T over here. How you doing? And he's like, I want to make your day, right? Let's make a deal, Donald, right? I'll give up some of my uranium, and I will guarantee that I will stop enrichment program. Right, if we can re-sign this deal, if we can, you know, get the ball rolling on normalization, because like Iran's goal should have been normalizing relations with the West instead of turning themselves into the fucking perfect boogeyman. And I should say Iran's government, because a lot of people in Iran don't agree with the direction of their government. Right, should have been playing the game over here, and he wasn't. He was like, no, I'm just, you know, antagonism. Boogeymanism is what I'll call it, maybe, right? With these fucking Hamas and Hezbollah. And yes, there is connections between the Iranian government and Hamas. There shouldn't be. You shouldn't be playing these fucking games.
Brandishing their
totally
nuclear
failed.
capability.
Totally
they were
failed.
bragging about how close they were. They were doing something they didn't need to do for civilian nuclear purposes. So their chickens are coming home to roost. They didn't have to do this. And the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, just before Israel strikes, declared them in non-compliance with their requirements to allow inspectors to know what they're doing.
And,
so Iran...
And I'm not trying to defend the West. I'm not trying to say they had it coming. I'm just pointing out, like this guy's pointing out, like there was decisions to be made. And, you know, they made these decisions. And, you know, it's like the gambit was if we get a nuclear weapon, then we get treated like the big dogs. But that was quite a gambit. And it's failed. It's failed, man. It failed. You know, Donald Trump pushed the button on that one, okay? Like I said before, if those strikes were successful, that is technically the end of Iranians' nuclear energy program. For the next like fucking decade. Okay, so fuck enrichment. Like you're just going to be lucky to hold on to the uranium that you've already enriched at whatever quality, which is basically useless because you're not going to be able to fucking sell that shit. You're under the biggest microscope possible. Like it was a gamble. It was a gamble, and he lost. The Ayatollah. It was the nuclear weapons acquisition was a gamble, and he fucking lost. And yeah, he should have realized a long time ago, I'm not going to be able to play with the big dogs with nuclear weapons. I got to find a different avenue. And he never did. He never did. Stuck right to the plan. Probably still wants to.
Trump is responsible for pulling out of the diplomatic agreement. The intelligence hasn't changed as best as I can tell. You can always take intelligence and manipulate it and exaggerate it. I believe that's what the Israelis have done. And I believe that's what the president has done.
Yeah,
but he's right that
but
Iran was threatening to develop a nuclear weapon. And that's Iran's own fault for doing so.
James Rubin, thank you very much. Well, earlier I spoke to Anshel Pfeffer, Israel correspondent.
And no offense, I don't mean any offense, Rebel Phoenix. It is relevant, but it's not relevant to you know, like Iranians making that point. It's not going to you know, they're not going to find victory making that argument. Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, no, Rebel. Yeah.
Correspondent for The Economist, who's in Jerusalem, and I began by asking him what he makes of today's developments
is Israel here
from Washington.
Israel wants this.
We've seen how Donald Trump from afar gave the orders to the American bombers to make one strike, and with that took ownership of this war. I mean, this was a war that Israel began 12 days ago, and Donald Trump is now very clearly the man calling the shots and calling time.
But Netanyahu will present this as a huge victory, won't he? I mean, I just asked a source in the Prime Minister's office for some background, and the text came back, blah, blah, and blah, we won.
Yeah. Well, I think that Netanyahu had, with some justification, can call this a win. It achieved its aims. Israel set out to remove what it called the existential threat of Iran's nuclear program and ballistic missile project, and both those projects have been significantly damaged, not destroyed.
Bibi is actually in a tough position here because if this was a Joe Biden or a Barack Obama, they would have never, ever, ever done what Donald Trump did with the fucking bunker busters. Right? But in one fell swoop, in a weird way, it's a power move, right? It's a power move. In one fell swoop, Donald Trump just takes the whole thing off the table. Fine. No more nukes. That. Okay, you're done, right, Bibi? You're done. And Bibi was like, whoa, I needed a long, protracted, I need more time to save my ass politically here. I needed a whole quagmire. And he just took my whole weapons of mass destruction piece right off the chessboard there. So it does kind of put him in a very weird position right now.
But probably we could say it's set back by years.
How does this change the war in Gaza, if at all?
That is up to Donald Trump, and certainly he could. And we do know that before this war with Iran, he has urged, and his Representative Steve Witkoff has urged Netanyahu to accept ceasefire. And before this war began, 13 days ago, we were hearing from both Israeli and American officials that they weren't that far away from reaching the deal with Hamas. Now, Hamas has lost in Iran its biggest backer, Iran. I don't think.
Okay, so there are. I should do a deep dive. Rebel Phoenix, could you give me maybe an article or video that would explain some of that? I won't have time to show it, but I will watch it in my personal time and maybe show it tomorrow.
We'll have the capacity anymore in the foreseeable future,
because nobody's talking about that. If there are still viable sites that are still up and running, then nobody has been talking about that, and that does need to be talked about.
To back Hamas, and Hamas needs a ceasefire. The question is now, what will Netanyahu do? Will he use the political capital he's acquired over the last 12 days within Israel to refuse the demands of his far-right coalition partners, so that Israel continue the war in Gaza until complete occupation and annexation? Or will he try and brazen it out? And I think we're back to where we began this interview, that a lot of it depends on Donald Trump.
How will his analysis, his intemperate analysis of what's been happening this morning, go down in Israel? I mean, when he says these two people have been at it so hard, they don't know whatever they're doing, there's some truth to that, isn't there?
Well, it certainly has taken a bit of the shine out of Netanyahu's victory, this smackdown from Donald Trump, as you mentioned.
This fella's pretty interesting. He's in Jerusalem. Homie's got, the dreidel, not the dreidel. What the fuck is this called? The goddamn candlestick holder thing. And looks like he's written a book about Bibi. I assume this is his book, featured so prominently in his messy shelf here. Which is actually pretty cool that it's all messy. But he seems to be one of these Israelis that acknowledges that's what's happening as an ethnic cleansing, and is a heavy critic of Bibi. So interesting. My shelves are pretty goddamn messy too. So there you go. Glass houses.
The F-bomb that the president
I'm going to make a
dropped
meme out of you saying
the
Quagmire. Please do. Please make sure it's funny, and make sure you make me go viral. Okay, go.
The White House, even before Trump chastised Netanyahu in public. I wouldn't have said Netanyahu has totally regained the entire Israeli public. We've seen in a couple of polls during the war that many Israelis still hold him responsible for the failure of October 7, for other failures on his watch. So I don't think...
Might be a fence. It might be a fence. I'm seeing fencing down here. It might be a fence. Just a heads up.
He's totally redeemed himself.
Just finally, I mean, throughout this last few days...
Wait, who's redeemed himself?
Gaza, every day...
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the goddamn windows. What is he talking about?
The Israelis still hold him responsible for the failure of October 7, for other failures on his watch. So I don't think he's totally redeemed himself.
Just finally, I mean, throughout this last few days...
Phoenix.
In Gaza, every day, people have gone to these food collection points and been killed.
That's big.
Is that even being noticed in Israel, and does it have any impact at all?
Well, I think all the eyes in Israel have been over the last 12 days on what's been happening with Iran. Israel is still in its trauma of October 7, even though it's been now over 20 months. And I don't think most Israelis are that minded to see the casualties of the other side I think I think it's an unrealistic expectation from any nation to take into to be as empathetic as you from London or from Washington expect them to be.
Angela Pfeffer, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Christian.
Okay, Okay. Well, I've given you all my opinions. You've heard all my opinions. Let's not forget why we're here, though. We're here because the only way to create change is with a simple 3-step solution. Step 1, we inform ourselves. Step 2, we sign up, show up. Step 3, we put in the work like Charlie Kirk. We work as hard as the fascists work. It's the only way we're going to get victory. Charlie Kirk works overtime, man. Guy's working hard to change young people's minds, turn them into good, obedient fascists. He's a hard-working man, Charlie Kirk. And he's also a disgusting fascist, and this is the only way to defeat him. You know, Cenk Uygur, he doesn't necessarily disagree with protesting. It really does seem like it's more of a semantic thing, but it just, I don't know, man. And you know, the other thing that bothered me about Cenk Uygur and the Kyle and Crystal debate there was that the whole reason that they had the meeting was a follow-up to Cenk Uygur, like, kind of making a bet with Crystal about whether Trump is going to not go to war with Iran. Like that Trump is like, let's see, let's give him a chance, because that's what Cenk was saying, you know, after Trump was elected, but before he had become president. It's like, well, let's see, let's wait and see. Whose birthday is it? Happy birthday. Wait, wrong button. I don't know if it's like the weather. I don't know, man. But I think if Cenk Uygur were in front of us and I were to ask him, like, do you think people should participate in nonviolent direct political action? He would say, hell yes. And he's currently, like, his show is absolutely progressive. Like, I watch it at least once a week, right? It's absolutely progressive. Defending progressive values. He's engaging in activism outside of the show constantly. Yeah, but I mean, I gotta say, in that debate, you did see the ugly parts of Cenk Uygur, which was, you know, straw manning. Straw manning was the absolute worst. Was probably the most dishonest stuff there. But yeah, he did not represent himself very well in that debate. He calmed down at the second near the second half of the debate there. At the end, he calmed himself down, and then they were able to have a sensible conversation. But as long as he's not saying, you know, don't waste your time with protesting, which is kind of what Vaush's message is, a little bit, kind of a meek message from Vaush, you know, because you know who has the right mentality right now amongst the people that I'm talking about? Hassan. And you got to give it up for Hassan. Front and center, out in the streets, talking to folks, bringing his audience in there, doing speeches, even if he is a lunkhead and he busts out from the river to the sea. Right. So he's not fully aware of the damage that he could do by going along with Israeli propaganda in that way. He's being defiant, but he's also allowing himself to be used as a weapon, which is a lunkhead thing to do. If you're going to be entering politics, you have to start positioning yourself politically, right? You don't get a break because you're young and you're popular on Twitch. You know what I mean? Like, this is an adult game. You got to treat it seriously. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the whole sitch. I'll probably fuck around and find out. I'll probably have to do a follow-up tomorrow as well. So look forward to that, folks. I'm back on Twitch. Once again, thank you, Twitch. Thank you, Jeff Bezos. I will, I'll try to be more careful about showing blurred out dead bodies. I'll add an extra blur in the future. So I did not mean to break TOS in that manner, right? I'm just trying to tell the truth here, just trying to report on the news. And it is, I do think it's newsworthy watching Russia's army getting obliterated 4-1, 5-1 on the battlefield. I do think that is newsworthy, right? Thank you, Ice King of Space. Big props to your motherfucking boy Lenny from south of Boston. Make sure you're liking and subscribing on Lenny. Hashtag more Lenny. Fuck Russia for real, 100%. Peace in that motherfucking Middle East. Glory to the Ukrainian democracy. Big props to Ribbons. Big props to Ponder Monkey. Rebel Phoenix. Blase. Ice King of Space. Lenny. Egg Bold. Lenny. Davey. Lenny. Tisrael. Big props. Big props. Strategy member. Thank you. Once again, extra special big fat props. I'm talking, you need a wheelbarrow. For the folks that came in during the 30 days that I was banned, came into the goddamn scummy, I don't want to be here land of Kick or D-Live even. And of course, strategy member over there on YouTube. No war but class war. It's very true. It's not left or right. It's up. It's up, right? That's where we need to be looking. That's where our enemies are. Not left or right, but up. Take care of yourself. HP Shouty. See you tomorrow. Ribbons. Hell yeah. Big props to Ribbons. Zio Dude.